Hello. Hello. Yes, and welcome to the Aureus Press Surecast. And I have today Mr. the Hellenist, who was here a second ago. And he's coming back. His audio was terrible. And we were going to try something else. But whatever he's trying, he's vanished. But he'll be back, I'm sure. And it is a glorious evening here, and I don't know if it's a full moon or close to, but that's a sign that great, powerful things are afoot, especially for a podcast about Hellenism. It could be both auspicious and complimentary. At least it won't be unmomentous, let's say. As Hellenists, we are bound to believe this. But yeah, he was on, and then he went off again. And I don't know what's taking so long to try again. Perhaps he discovered what it was with his audio. But Louis had a working version of it, at least. Hang on a sec. Let's see if he sent me a message saying he's burst into flames or been attacked by chickens. No message. So he's on the way. Yeah, so we're going to talk about Hellenism. And we are both Hellenists. Anybody who follows his account on Twitter knows he's an ardent Hellenist, let's say. And I don't know, he borders on parody with some of his posts there. But that's the funny thing is it's all really pretty much true stuff. And I'm sure he knows that. I don't know. I'm sure he does. That's my feeling. I agree with it. At the same time, he does it outrageously, bombastically, intentionally. What's the word? Antagonistically almost. And, that's good. It makes it funny. Oh, there he is. Oh, and he's all dressed up. Excellent. He wasn't before. Oh, that's what took him so long. Hello. You decided to dress appropriately. Nice.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I changed the wardrobe. Yeah. You actually sound better. So everything's perfect.
Okay. Excellent.
At the last minute,
I can switch over the earpiece if it doesn't work. I think it was the Bluetooth was catching on to something else. So we should be good now.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I'll just turn you up a bit. There we go. Perfect. Excellent. So welcome. I've already introduced you. This is the Hellenist. As I was saying, he is a Hellenist. Look at him, for God's sake. for Zeus's sake.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get his story and learn a bit about what he's all about. I was saying about your tweets are very bombastic.
Yeah.
And I think what I say about them is they're 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I'm hoping you believe them. It's not just some joke.
Right.
You do
right.
it intentionally.
No. Obviously I joke around sometimes, but generally speaking, yeah, it's meant to be true.
Yeah, it strikes me as true. Yeah, but the way you say it, and just to hear it, anybody saying it, such naked truth is sounds bombastic,
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Well, that's just kind of my goal. It's like I figure that truth is the best bait. Is that basically all you have to do is just tell people the truth, and then watch them freak out, and that's basically all you have to do to trick the algorithms. Basically, it's like. The more truth you give to people, a certain demographic of people is not going to understand it, and it's going to make them angry. So the way I figure it, I'm just going to tell the truth as I see it, and then let everybody else sort it out.
And you figure it's a way to trick the algorithm. So you feel it's worked out for you. You haven't been what's the word? Black. What do they call it? Shadow banned or any of that?
Shadow ban. I don't think so. Sometimes it feels like it. I'm starting to see that like certain words, if you use them, it's gonna depress the algorithm, and it's always changing.
What words? I'd like to know. I want to know. I need to know. What words do you think? Tell me immediately.
What words? Well,
yeah, in your experience.
Recently, this wasn't the case before, but I think recently the word Jew has caused it to go down in the algorithm. I think there's been a concerted effort to suppress anti-Semitic speech.
I should remind you. We're on YouTube, so we have to be extra careful.
Right.
In regards to that. But yes, I know. I usually use terms like tunneler or my own invented terms.
Okay.
Anyways, I figured they'd be on that one. That would be number one problem word. Yes.
Yeah. I do. I'm basically just talking about what it seems like the algorithm is doing behind the scenes. We never really know because all you can do is just tweet and then see what happens, and then try to make your best guess as to what the
Yes.
algorithm favors. It does seem to favor comments more than likes. So if you get people talking, that's what it really wants. So like quote tweets, anything that's just that's provocative or like a hot topic, any of that type of stuff, the algorithms favor, which is in a lot of ways it's a bad thing because it causes our speech. People have to be more and more edgy and bombastic in order to get attention, because otherwise, like, you just get ignored. Like, you have to do something that's attention grabbing now, and a lot of
Mm.
times what that means is that you have to suppress virtue, because virtue isn't it's not very popular. It's like nobody uh, gets up and wants to follow that kind of lifestyle. It's much easier to just be a degenerate and
Yeah. Well, it's
do whatever
uncompromising.
your feelings are like at the moment.
Yeah.
So
True virtue is utterly uncompromising. There's no,
right,
ifs and it's going to upset some people or some, certain lifestyles that are being lived or whatever, obviously. And then, it's
yeah,
not, it used to be that people wouldn't necessarily want to immediately shut you down or attack you over, trifling opinion or even like fairly major opinions. There used to be much more when I was younger. Everybody would speak, and you wouldn't, the whole thing of like trying to stifle speech really came in over the course of my lifetime. But
yeah, right.
we have to just be wily about it, because I've been doing this for a long time on these things, and
Mhm.
I've been punished. I've been punished severely off and on. I still am. I don't
Yeah,
have the reach and the numbers I should have by any means. But
yeah,
you have to stick to your guns. And then it's true. The more outright true thing you say, and especially if it's a classical value type thing,
hmm,
you will be. There'll be confusion and punishment, and then of course Christians will attack you for their value difference,
right.
in the virtue being expressed, and that's another problem. There's always these it's all the funny little problems that you sort of don't expect. Like you expect a problem from leftists and from algorithms, etc., but then you get people that are more or less on your side on so many things, but either they're Christian or what's the other, Nordic pagans. Even sometimes there's a difference there. They
Yeah,
don't like, right, they hate the Roman stuff, or they think, whatever, they
yeah,
don't,
yeah. I
you
don't
know
think they agree with a lot of the stuff I say. It's like it's pretty different. I would almost say like northern paganism is closer to Christianity, or at least what like European Christianity became, or even American Christianity, because a lot of Americans are Northern European in descent, and so a lot of that stuff came over here. Christmas. It's just it, but the Greco-Roman stuff, it's not. It doesn't sit well with them. It's like they're very
Yeah, there's so few
very
of us. There's so
naturalistic.
few of us, and it's. I find it. I'm not sure why there's so few of us. Considering, I think just people aren't reading the classics. It's simple as that.
Mhm.
Some of them say they do. All they have to do is
Right.
read these books. That's what turned me into a Hellenist.
Exactly.
And you,
Yeah.
was it you? What? What? Okay, let's ask you. How did you end up this way?
Uh,
From like a
like
normal person to a Hellenist, and a shit
to a
posting
Hellenist.
Hellenist.
Yeah. Well, basically, I started off when I was young. I was raised Christian, and so I went to church every day. I went to Sunday school, vacation Bible school. Like, I was Christian.
Every
My
day,
whole family was
every
Christian.
day,
What's that?
every day you went to church.
Well, not every day.
Oh,
Every Sunday, I guess. And maybe I
right,
misspoke.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, every Sunday I would go to church. We'd dress up, and the tie. I had my little clip-on tie, as a kid. And we would go to church and we would pray. We'd do all that stuff, and I bought it, for the first 10 years of my life or so. And then it wasn't until I started getting a little older, till like middle school, where I started, getting more of an education. I started learning Darwin. They in sixth grade they taught us Homer, taught us the Iliad. Though
Ooh.
we didn't actually read it in sixth grade, but the teacher like walked us through it every day. We go through a different book and then we talk about it, and like just judging all of it, I'm like, well, it's like Christians are saying one thing, Darwin's saying another thing, and then Homer's saying another thing. Like, which one is it? And so I lost my faith in Christianity, but I didn't really have anything to replace it with. So I basically became agnostic, atheist agnostic. I tried out Eastern mysticism, never quite sat with me. It always felt like it was life denying, like you're trying to hide from life or something. It's not proactive. It's not Nietzschean.
Yeah, this
Like
is like,
Buddhism.
you mean like tantric Buddhism or something, is it? Or is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, or like I don't know. I've read some stuff. I wasn't that much into it. I was just more so trying to like get an education, what it was about, trying meditation, yoga, and that type of stuff. But
Yeah.
I still just remained an agnostic, religiously wise, until it was probably let's see, what year was that? Like 2014. It's like 10 years ago. I
Right.
I first read Nietzsche, and that was what really blew it open for me. Because like before, I had kind of had like a liberal atheist stance. It's not that I like believed in liberalism. I just believed in liberty from Christianity. It's like the Christians wanted to come in and thump us with their Bible, and I was like, I don't want to do that. So therefore, the liberals are the only ones that are like letting me live a life that's not Christian. So I kind of sided with liberals in that, but I was always kind of uh, not quite one of them. You know, I always had this kind of more realistic view towards politics, and like the idea that war is necessary and good,
Right.
and to a lot of people that idea is just so frightening that they can't bear it. So I just when I was younger, I didn't really talk about it that much, but after reading Nietzsche, then I started really getting a picture for what's going on, and it's like, okay, he's really onto something with this will to power and master slave morality. Like he's really put his finger on what's going on and
Hmm.
why the world is crumbling. Like, why is it so degenerate now? Why is everything like the clothes, the music, the movies, just all of it's terrible? And it's like, why? And so finally, like Nietzsche, to me, he answered that question, and it's because of slave morality. It's that the people who are on the bottom ganged up on the people who are on the top,
Yeah.
and then spread the power all out to a bunch of people, voting wise, democratically, so that they basically just made the whole nation mediocre. It's like we started off as a very aristocratic nation in America. Like you had to be landowning, you had to be white. I think at
Hmm.
least in some of the states, but it's completely different, the way that it is now. So
Yeah.
basically,
Well,
with
they even, and dare I say, they were, those guys, as ardently Christian as they were, they were from the era when everybody in school in their time would have learned they would have learned to read Homer in Greek, and
Mhm,
the Annals of Caesar in Latin, and they would
right,
have like known a lot of it, like much better than we do, and more
yeah,
of the poets and
absolutely,
they were completely well versed in many ways. In many ways, Europeans since the Renaissance were ostensibly, pagan values were at least fused with whatever, with whatever they were.
yeah. In the
So,
Renaissance, you're saying?
well, the Renaissance, when the Medici found and brought the texts, Plato
Mhm,
who's the guy, Hermes Trismegistus, who's
mhm,
is not really Hellenism or anything, but it was like all those works that they found that were taken from, I think, was it when Constantinople fell or whatever, I can't remember what, but the texts were around and the monks had them, and they made their way to Florence and they repopularized mainly Plato, but I mean also
mhm,
Aristotle and all of them. That all these ideas entered the West again through.
yeah,
So that was the Renaissance.
mhm,
It was a Hellenistic revival of thought.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
what do
Yeah,
you like? So you obviously are, you have a love for Nietzsche. I mean, I love him too, but I always had to. There's a lot of Nietzscheans on Twitter, on the internet, who take up his hatred for Plato, his
yeah,
supposed hatred for Plato, which I think was just kind of a showy thing. He would, I don't know how
right.
much he.
No, I
I don't think
agree.
he
I
would
think
take. I don't think
that's
he
a
would
good
take it to
point.
their degree, where they'd like totally reject him, which is, to me, is so crazy. I mean, Plato is everything.
Yeah, yeah. It's just that 2,000 or what is it, 2,300 years later, he's still nobody's defeated these arguments. It's like he formed the basis of Western thought, and all these philosophers have tried to beat him, and they can't, and none of them can. I think you're right too about Nietzsche. I think he's mostly trying to be provocative, because
Yeah.
I've read almost all of his stuff, and I never get the feeling like it's a hatred. It's almost like a Nietzsche tends to be more, I think, on the barbarian side of the spectrum from the Hellenism side of the spectrum. I think he's
Right.
more like might makes right. He's in
Yeah.
favor of more like internal violence and versus like a Plato or Aristotle who's trying to come up with like, all these complicated forms of justice. Like Nietzsche definitely had some kind of hostility towards justice. I can't quite understand what he meant, but he uses that word a lot of the time in a negative way. But
Hmm.
I still think at the end of the day, Nietzsche wasn't able to defeat either Plato or Aristotle. I don't think he really went after Aristotle too much. It was mostly Socrates and Plato, but
Yeah.
still he didn't succeed. Maybe I think he added something. He added a foundation to it that like will to power is the foundation of Plato, of Neoplatonism. That it's like the purpose of trying to achieve the form of the good is will to power. Is that
Yeah. Yeah.
we worship the gods as symbols of excellence or as the divine perfection that we strive for. And the reason why we strive for it is because of will to power, because we want
Yeah.
to become more beautiful and more strong and more dominant
Yeah.
across the whole galaxy, not just Earth. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Space Hellenism is really what we're going for here. That would be the
yeah.
ultimate. I mean, so
Yeah.
people think we're ridiculous. So you and I must have come to this opinion, in our own way or whatever.
Yeah.
You through the method, you through the way you just said, through Nietzsche. I don't know how it happened to me. Actually,
Mm.
I read just reading the classics,
Yeah.
and reading as many as I could, and
Hmm.
being unable to shake those ideas, and it gave me instant also peace of mind. I feel I'm more in
Yeah.
touch with just be accepting of nature,
Hmm.
accepting of the way it has to play out.
Yeah.
I accept there's harsh things. I accept war as everything's at war in a certain way. There's conflict is inevitable. And I don't
Yeah.
think Plato or Aristotle would object to Nietzsche's will to power idea. He put it
Right.
into words in a way that they didn't. I don't see anything in them that they would object to that or be in disagreement. What was
Hmm.
his main disagreement with Plato? Why did he say he was? I can't
Um,
remember.
I personally like what I think it is. It has to do with kind of Homer versus Plato. It's like
Right.
Homer is not like a philosopher. He's a poet.
Yeah.
He is a philosopher kind of, but he writes poetry, and it's not the type of like uh, philosophical uh, 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 ability to go into these subjects with great detail. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's
It's straightforward, like pure pagan kind of. Yeah. What is like even the morals of it are just like is very will to power, and yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah. I think it
it's
is.
like
I think both of them
so
are
and so is
pro
incredibly
conquest.
mighty, and this. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's that Plato and Aristotle are both pro conquest, but it's like a temperate form of conquest. If you I don't know if you've read the Laws, but looking at the
I've tried
difference
to.
between
I have tried to.
try to yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
I
it's
mean, I've
good.
done it. I've done it and maybe absorbed. I don't know, 15,
Yeah.
20% of it for and like I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, I know it's long and it's in that Plato dialogue, the people talking back and forth, and but it seems to me that the Republic is a little bit more aggressive, and the Laws is a little bit more like temperate and democratic. I think he even says women should vote in the Laws, if I'm not
Oh, I don't know
mistaken.
about that. Really, I have to look that one up because he definitely says they shouldn't somewhere else.
Yeah, in the Republic, I think he does. He does say that they can run for that they can hold public office in the Republic,
Ooh,
but I don't think he
that'll
says
be.
they can vote, which is
Well, we
funny
can't
with
agree
that
with everybody
government.
all the time, can we?
Yeah,
We can't agree with
um,
everybody else. No one. We can't agree with anybody 100%.
yeah,
And that's an
exactly,
accepted.
exactly. But no, I agree with you. I think that Plato and Aristotle would agree with Nietzsche. They'd probably say he's a little bit excessive. He went a little bit too far, and probably because I think he wanted to outshine Plato. That it was a little bit of a professional jealousy there. Like he thought that he had come up with something new, and he destroyed all other philosophers, including Plato. But I don't think Plato was destroyed by Nietzsche. I think
No,
it
no.
served as another footnote to Plato, the biggest footnote to
Yeah,
Plato.
probably the
Other
biggest.
than
Probably number three. Second, maybe no. I can't say that. I would say Plato, Aristotle, Plotinus, and then Nietzsche. Maybe I think, and then it might even. And it's only because I haven't read. Who's the other big Neoplatonist? There's Proclus, and who's the other guy? The Arab guy. He's
Oh,
apparently very good, but I've only read snippets of it. Oh shit,
hmm.
I can't think of his name right now. But anyways, but that's actually where you find the only place I find fellow Hellenists is if you're following a Neoplatonism forum, talking philosophy or something. Then you find
Yeah,
them, and there's a
yeah,
few of them. But it's such a small thing considering,
hmm,
and online, anyways, or it seems to be. I don't know. I mean, certain people agree, but I don't know. If you go into some sort of online pagan community, 9 times out of 10, it's some kind of Norse thing or whatever, and
right,
that can be okay as long as they don't have that negative attitude towards Rome, etc., and Plato, and all the great.
right,
I mean, this is that. Though this is the foundation of actual Western civilization. It's not the Bible,
right,
and it's not these other things. If you want a source of true Western creativity, you go to Greece, ancient Greece, and then it was championed and made even bigger by the Romans. But the true source was the civilization of the Greeks, and every
yeah,
proper scientific or innovative, creative thing, from their excellence of their art to philosophy itself, geometry and all the great institutions and vocations of the West and all the great
hmm,
ideas. So many of them, like I don't know, what percentage, 80, 90%? I don't know.
yeah. It's almost
Originate
all.
there. So if you can't respect that, and if you don't, I don't know why more people don't understand and gravitate to it. And that so much of the answers are there. Spiritually, the answers there
Yeah,
are there.
right,
Even just in Plato, who's just a philosopher, he's not. There's so much. He's really also sort of a mystic as well, right?
yeah,
And everything is there as far as I can see. And it's very sad we lost the Nordic texts, or whatever they had, the Irish religion, wasn't
hmm,
recorded, and all those things are kind of lost. And I'm sure there was much wisdom there as well. But we do have this, and it is excellent.
right,
And if there's any kind of, I think, if God is giving you a hint as to what to follow or what's good, I mean, look to where the great vast bounty of true knowledge has come from. That
yeah,
the whole idea of struggling over what is good and discovering what is good and
hmm,
then acting on it, that is good and it has been good.
yeah. And it'll continue being
So
good. Yeah, it,
yeah, that's the way I see it. So I always think I think a little bit superstitiously about it. I think, well, if I have any indicate, because at one point I personally tried to go back to Catholicism I was raised with,
mhm,
and I'd be sitting there in the mass, even a Latin mass, but then at some point they speak in English and you hear all the names and the stories and you think, first of all, the names and things are not resonating with me. They're all these Semitic things. I'm like, okay, whatever.
yeah,
And then also it's in terms of actual myth, religious myth,
mhm,
everyone think a Christian will argue with you, oh, you're LARPing, you're playing funny games, look with your dragons and your giants and things. But all that same shit is there in the Bible. You think we're funny with our minotaurs and our cyclops, but all that same kind of shit is there. If you want to talk
yeah,
about silly shit,
yeah, yeah.
unbelievable,
Lyrical.
crazy stuff. It's all there. You don't have any corner. You haven't cornered the market on serious religion.
Yeah,
And in fact, there's so much more nonsense in the Bible about the Earth being 2,000 years old and
right.
all this bunk. The ridiculous story of Noah and Adam, or Noah's got a Greek. The story of the flood was universal. Deucalion was Noah to the Greeks and all this. Like, there's usually
Oh,
an older counterpart to the same stories, right? So
really?
to me, that
Okay.
was like I thought. So I just went, okay, it's the same kind of shit, except it's all Semitic or whatever.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the other stuff resonates. The names and the stories really excite me.
Hmm.
And I just took a nap. I thought, well, what is life telling me to do?
Yeah.
What?
And you went for it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. With you, it was simple. You said you just ceased to believe one. You didn't see it as quite as superstitiously as me. You just made a decision, a rational decision.
Yeah, it was mostly rational. Well, it partially what kind of triggered it, I was a young child. I think I was 9 years old, and actually my cat was down the street, and it got hit by a car, unfortunately.
Oh, sorry.
And I'm a 9-year-old boy. I get the call from the person down the street, "Hey, your cat's been hit. You need to come get it." And I told my mom. She goes down there. I stay at the house. She comes back. The cat's like, slumped over her shoulder, obviously dead. My mom's crying and everything. And I'm like, I love that cat. Her name was Patches. Um, and when after it was happening, I was just a little boy. I was really sad. I didn't understand it. It's like and so I prayed to God. I was like, why did you take Patches from me? Why would you do that? And just basically because I had prayed my whole life, but I had never actually heard God speak to me. like I would pray and then I would listen and I wouldn't hear anything. So I was like, okay, well maybe I'm not doing it right or something. And then that time after my cat had died, I was like, all right, me and you, God. I want to hear from you. I want to know you're real. I don't expect you to bring my cat back to life, but just tell me you're real because I need you right now. And I heard nothing. And I was like, am I sitting here talking to myself? And when that thought entered my head, like before that, I was just frightened to even think of the fact that God could not be real. Because, if you do that, then you're going to hell. That's the worst thing you can do, is to be against Christ or against God, or to not believe in him and worship him. So,
Hmm.
but at that moment, I just decided that it was necessary to get to the bottom of it, basically to just put God on the spot and be like, talk to me. And if you don't talk to me, I don't know if you're my friend anymore. And that was
Oh,
basically it. And then it was like a year later, then I got the Darwin, I got the Homer. I started thinking for myself, and then, yeah, I just gave up on Christianity. So it was mostly a rational decision. It was
yeah.
like, it was no contact with the divine. And so I'm like, well, if I'm not getting any contact from this, I'm not really getting any benefit. And whatever God this is killed my cat, because he's God and he does everything. So I don't really like this God that much anymore. And that was basically when I stopped believing in it. But it wasn't until I got to more Nietzsche and Plato, especially, is that I started understanding the purpose of religion and how important it is for society. It's like you can't have society without good, strong religion, or at least not excellent society. Like right now, we have basically like a atheistic, multicultural malaise. There's really nothing that's holding America together right now, other than this vague notion of freedom and democracy, and a lot of people are losing faith in that too. So yeah, but it was mostly it's Plato and understanding this concept of what religion is and the form of the good and why it's so important to have uh, ideals or idols, or Aristotle talks too about just the importance of the statues of the gods and what they represent and how they teach virtue to us. Is that they, whereas like the Jewish God or the Christian God, Yahweh, he refuses to let you make graven images of him. So you have to just, picture it in your mind like, well, this is God, some metaphysical force that exists in the ether somewhere,
Hmm.
versus the Greek gods, where it's like you have a tangible representation of what this God is. And, it's like
Hmm.
it's just the human form, like the God itself is in, we can't see it. It's like you can't see love, but you can see Aphrodite when she appears in the form of a beautiful woman, or that's
Hmm.
her human form, but she can take other forms as well. And just the
Yes,
under
every woman has a touch of her. Yeah,
what's that?
every woman has a touch of her that
Yeah,
comes out at
yeah,
some time or another.
yeah. So it's just it. Once I started reading Nietzsche, I read The Birth of Tragedy, and that got me into Apollo and Dionysus. I wasn't really like a Hellenist then, but I was like, okay, I bought a statue of Apollo and a statue of Dionysus. I put them up on my speakers. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not worshiping them, but I liked what they represent. And then
Yeah.
I kept digging into philosophy. And like you said, I kept reading the classic. I was reading Aristotle, I was reading Homer, I was reading Hesiod, I was reading Thucydides, and all these guys. Arian, and it keeps drilling this idea into your head of virtue and excellence, because like
Yeah.
that idea is
Yeah.
completely missing in modern society. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no idea of like civic
Self
duty.
improve,
It's like,
true self improvement, true self
well,
improvement.
yeah, yeah,
All right.
it's yeah. So no, but I think it's a good thing. I think the the more that people learn about Plato and Hellenism, and if we can just get the word out, I think the word is so strong that it really will defeat all other ideologies, because it's the truest truth that we have. And if enough people get on board with it, then you get another Greece or you get another Rome. And you basically need the people who are wise enough, the aristocratic elite, which not the rich, but the wise and the brave, the just, the temperate, the people who are really well read in the classics, if they go out there and they really start speaking and they start running for office and they get out there in front of the people and they wear the clothes and they do everything to get the message across that what we're doing right now is not okay. Mediocrity is not acceptable. Like we
Yeah.
have to be better. Otherwise,
Equality is
we're going to
nonsense.
lose. You know, we're all going to
Yeah.
die. So
Yeah. Equality is nonsense. And materialism needs to be and materialism and money needs to be much further down your list of priorities than it is now.
right,
I do want to ask
exactly.
you, so let me just check one thing with you. So
Sure.
you wouldn't like, or maybe you would. Would you? What would you like? You wouldn't consider yourself basically just trying to see where you come from exactly. You wouldn't consider yourself, say, an atheist who just chooses Hellenistic religion for sort of cultural,
Right.
societal purposes. Is that what you would consider yourself, or do you have a literal
I
belief?
would say no. So I get accused of being a secret atheist quite a lot by Christians. But
Okay.
I personally, though, no, I'm all in. I was more on the Plato side, where it's kind of like well, the gods aren't real, but they kind of represent this metaphysical form of the good. You know, they don't actually perform miracles, but we should still worship them, and we should also edit Homer, and we should change Homer so that it's not so violent, or things like that. And I've moved past that though, so like now I'm more Homeric. Like I pray to the gods all the time. I make offerings every night. I at least do an incense offering. I try to do rituals. I'm building temples in my backyard, getting ready to start having religious festivals. I'm going to be doing athletic games. Like I'm all in on this stuff. Like I don't
So
I think
have
there's
you have you got people around you in person that are do it with you, or
I've got some people. I don't have anybody that's like full on Hellenist like me. Like the people I know who are Hellenists are like all online.
okay?
And but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to gather everybody together and make something. Basically, have like a miniature, or not even miniature. It can grow, but start off with like a small polis where like the polis begins with the temples or with a temple. I happen to have 3 buildings out there already that I'm converting into temples. So,
On
yeah,
your property.
on my property, yeah, yeah. So I got a like a what do you call it, like a ranch or compound out in the desert. So
Dude,
it's outside of LA. I've got a big property in the desert, and I'm building these 3 temples to Athena, Zeus, and Apollo. Um, I've and then I'm going to put another area for a stadium to where we can start doing athletic games, and also we can do religious festivals there. We can just do all kinds of things. I want to set up a theater where we can have people actually performing their poetry live, because a lot of this stuff that and I think you would agree with this,
that
the
sounds great.
real
Yeah.
classics, is that we totally lost touch with the natural world. Like we've become these digital automatons,
Yeah.
NPCs. Like, and the way to get back to that natural state is you have to discard everything that is phony and that's like consumer. Like so much of the stuff, the products we buy are we don't need them at all, and they're actually really bad for us, many of them. And so
Plastic
it's like,
trash.
yeah, just getting rid of all that stuff as much as possible, and getting back to a life that respects nature and uh, through real life events, as opposed to like, oh, I'm going to watch something on YouTube. It's like, no, you actually have to show up and compete. You actually have to throw the javelin. Like you actually have to do a procession to Dionysus. You have to be there for the sacrifice before the
You
game.
have to get naked in the gym, and then
Yes, yes, and you
naked
have
in
to
the
get
bath
naked.
with your own gender, or maybe or in front of anybody in front of for the games.
Yeah.
You should be naked, nothing but olive oil,
Yeah,
right?
well, I think it's like I think it might have frozen there. Nope. Yeah,
I'm
I think
okay.
we
All right.
lost you. Oh, you there?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, yep. I lost it for a second. Can you hear
Okay.
me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So and definitely. I'm setting up. I'm putting these hedges around the edge. I got a 6 foot block wall around the entire property, so it's nice and secure. But I want to get a little bit more privacy, so I'm gonna put hedges around the whole thing. So we'll be able to do as much nude athletics we want back there and not bother anybody else. Um,
Excellent. It
I'm
sounds
I'm
good.
not
Maybe he
gonna
doesn't
make
know it. That's good.
people. I'm not gonna make them be nude if they want to wear like a loincloth or shorts or
Right.
whatever. That's fine. But
Yeah.
I think that's it's not going all the way. It's half-assing it. Like you got to go all the
Yeah.
way because once you realize what it's like to be outdoors exercising naked, like you realize that's the right way to do it because you don't want to block your body from the sun. Like you want the sun hitting every part of your body, like because it's natural and it's healthy. I think there's evidence that it increases testosterone production. Um, if you get sun, if you sun your balls, basically, at least I've heard that. Um,
I
so,
don't know about that
but
one, but
I'm not going to make people do
generally,
it, but
generally, I'm sure it's good
I'm
though.
going to be doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You sun all your parts. I don't know your balls specific. I think that was a bit of a meme thing, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, to be naked in the sun, I'm sure is great, and to get as much vitamin D as you can. Yeah, that's something
Yeah.
we're sorely lacking here in Ireland is vitamin D and sun. It's been good
Yeah.
this week, though. I must say, we've had a blessed week. Thank Sol Invictus.
Yeah.
He's blessed
Yeah.
us this week.
Where are you? You're in Dublin?
Yep.
Okay. You
South.
you have a more of like an American accent though. Are you from
Yeah,
America?
I'm from British Columbia
British
originally.
Columbia? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I used to live up in Seattle. So you were up like Vancouver?
Yeah, a small town east of there in the Rockies, small town that
Okay.
no one's
Well,
ever.
what's the
Yeah.
name of it? Do you remember? Or
Castlegar. It's called Castlegar. It's like 30,000 people in the mountains.
Castlegar. I think
Yeah.
yeah, it's east of Vancouver.
Yeah, about 8 hour drive east. Yeah,
Okay, okay,
it's
yeah, I don't, yeah.
between Vancouver and Calgary, pretty much dead on in the
Okay,
Rockies.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know where
so
that is. I've only been up to Vancouver, and this one time I went to this rave like way out in the middle of uh,
uh,
the forest. That was awesome, by the way. Because
was that
British
was it
Columbia forest
Shambhala
is
or whatever?
amazing.
Was that the Shambhala thing or whatever?
What's that?
Was it called Shambhala or something like that?
It was small. It was
Okay,
kind
oh
of a
no, okay. There's a
bust
huge one.
actually.
There's a
Like
huge one near Castlegar in the woods. That's like one of the biggest ones in the world, I think, for the raver dancey people,
okay,
and they all trip out and do their hippie dancing and stuff. It's called
yeah,
Shambhala. It's actually very close to where I grew up. But that didn't start.
okay,
I was too old for that. When I was young, it was all heavy metal and bush parties with big
okay,
bonfires and stuff like that,
yeah,
which was
yeah,
obviously far superior.
yeah, yeah,
Fucking fancy time. Oh, we're dancing. It was more like
yeah,
pull up with your
yeah,
muscle car and blast some Metallica, and if you're lucky,
yeah,
make out with some girl in the woods.
yeah.
If you're lucky, right? But
Yeah, I guess you guys didn't get much of that grunge scene up in British
oh, we
Columbia,
did.
did
Yeah,
you?
we did all that afterwards. Yeah, I mean, I'm
Did
old
you?
enough to remember when that happened. That was like more when I was first going to college and that.
Mm.
But I didn't mind some of that. It's not. It sounds a bit not so great now, impure somehow. But no, still, I would listen to it now and then. Some of it,
Yeah.
you know. Look, I'm drinking wine here. It's like we're having a symposium. This is how a
Oh,
symposium
nice.
should be,
Yeah,
where
I should have gotten
you
some
should
wine
have had
too.
some
Yeah, I
wine,
was
yeah,
thinking.
because
Yeah.
you're forced to drink and like get a bit drunk, but you must keep your wits about you and speak in a certain way. And
Yes, that's true.
so I do that
Yeah,
on most of the
actually,
streams. I
what?
do that. So it's a little symposium. You'll have
Yeah.
to have those too. You'll have to have. I don't know if you'll follow through with the orgy part.
The orgy party. Yeah,
Maybe
I don't know.
think about
Well,
that.
yeah. I don't even know how those went either. Like, do you know? Like, it wasn't all of them got together. Like, I know I've seen the artwork of like the men and they're like touching the flute girl and whatever. But
Yeah,
and
there's
like,
a lot of like plates with some pretty pretty
yeah,
intense designs.
yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
Well, yeah, you're talking about like the really lewd ones, like,
well, there's like a
um,
woman with two guys or whatever. You know, there's
yeah,
like
yeah. I've
they
seen
like
those.
show it
Yeah,
all. This is their dinner service. They're eating off
yeah,
these. See, that's the
yeah,
thing. Like, well, this is the one thing we have to keep in mind is, I think, and I don't know, like we've had 2,000 years of Christian morality, and it's pretty much entered our evolutionary bloodstream or whatever, right? So there's many attitudes they had that we can maybe never recapture, and maybe we don't want to. I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
they definitely had a different view to sex. I mean, you can't deny the only negative thing I'll say about Greek civilization, which we must acknowledge, is there was a certain degree of acceptance, a certain degree, not to the degree they try to say, but
mm,
there was a certain degree of acceptance of pederasty. Obviously, I
mm,
mean,
yeah,
I've seen that on artworks. I know that there was like kind of a thing. Even say the relationship between Socrates and
Alcibiades.
Alcibiades, that kind of thing. I mean, I don't know. They say that they loved each other and stuff. Like it might be in
Right.
a translation where they're trying to liberalize, they're trying to change it. I don't know.
Right.
But
Yeah. 'Cause-
there's no doubt there was some element of that, and that's we do not want that part.
right. Yeah. No.
You
No,
know?
we don't. And I think it's pretty clear we got to like come out forcefully against that. Like I'm
Mm.
not for it, and I think a lot of Greeks were not for it either. You know, it's like there was kind of
Oh,
a debate going on. It was kind of like seen, especially in Athens, where it was like a repayment for the mentorship. You know, I definitely believe in the mentorship idea is that like young
yeah.
boys should have an adult man that's um, that man is the father. But in Greek society, it was the forgot what the Greek term is, but the mentor who was at the gymnasium and he would teach them, and they would
Yeah.
have a special relationship, and that relationship was not always sexual. A lot, you know, and some people were very much against that idea, but I think they thought of it more like it wasn't as harmful as people do nowadays. Like nowadays,
Mm.
people see it as like this is the worst thing you could possibly do to a child, and children are put into a very weird, especially like in Greek society, it was like part of a system. Like it was at least tied to some notion of justice. Versus like nowadays, any type of that behavior is just completely uh, outside of any sort of guardrails. And so I think what the main thing to realize is that there is something there with the mentorship part of it, but there has to be very strong, especially for what's happened in the Catholic Church, with just like you put men and boys around each other, and they kind of like you got to watch them. You know, you never.
Yeah, you can
I
argue all the
hope that
faiths.
Greek
You can argue all the faiths
influenced
have
that.
been guilty of this and all that. Yeah,
What's that?
you can certainly you can argue that all the faiths have been guilty of this
Yeah,
problem
yeah,
one
yeah.
time or another.
Sometime or another, you know, it's
But we know we have to like just like earlier on with Plato. If we are realist men finding our way through the world with rationality, as Plato teaches, by
mm,
questioning everything all the time, it means that there's always going to be fault, probably a genuine fault, even in there's never going to be a perfect figure who's 100% right all the time. So Nietzsche
right.
will have faults. You know, Nietzsche did a lot of whining about Christianity. Oh, I'm so sad Christianity's not real.
Mhm.
Plato had a few faults. You mentioned a few of them there. You know, everybody and every idea is not flawless. So the best you can do in a Hellenistic framework is take the best parts of anything you see from the past, and even you try to make something new. I'm going to say, like it'll never be exactly the same.
Right.
So even say the way you're garbed now, I mean that's great, and something like that is excellent. But there's always going to be some element of modernity. You've got a little sort of tennis headband on and stuff, or
Mhm.
whatever. You know, you're going to be wearing I don't know, leather shoes or something, whatever, right? So you have to embrace the admixture of proper Hellenistic values with outer space
Right. Yeah. With
and
modernity. Yeah.
new proper things like this, right? So never
Right.
be afraid of taking the essential values and trying to perfect them. You'll always end up with some new flaw, I'm sure. Nothing will ever be 100% perfect.
Right.
But
Exactly.
so it's fair enough to worship and celebrate Greek culture and just sort of reject the pederasty part. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we would reject? I don't know.
Um.
I'm not sure there is, but there must be something probably.
Yeah. That's a good
But
question. Sometimes I think that there could have been a little bit more censorship on the poets. They got a little out of control, especially Aristophanes was kind of out of control.
okay.
But you know, it's hard to say though because you just made the point that it's like, well, you know, who's going to get to decide what is acceptable comedy and what's unacceptable? And you know, there's still great plays that Aristophanes plays, but you know, and they're funny and they're crude. But there, Plato brings this up too, is that there has to be censorship of the poets or of the media. Like there's if you let it go out and just everybody can say whatever they want, is you're going to get what we have today, where hip hop is the number one genre. Why
Oh,
the films are completely terrible now. I'm really dreading what's going to happen when this Odyssey movie comes out. I'm hoping,
oh,
I'm
God.
just hoping that it doesn't he doesn't completely destroy it because
Oh,
If he
just
does.
don't even ignore it completely. Just write it off. It'll be sacrilegious to see that. I
Yeah.
don't. I won't see it.
Yeah,
I
I
won't. I
know.
won't.
I just almost feel like I have to watch it as like a critique because like if he does something that's just so blasphemous of the gods, like I feel like I have to stand out against it. Like we have to boycott. We have to do something. Like we can't just let them keep blaspheming the gods like this, like making Athena black. Like that's the one thing that like
That's so
if they
bad.
do
The
that,
goddess of wisdom and like this a person of like 75 IQ. I mean, give me a break.
I know
Like, what,
exactly, and it's
please.
intentionally designed to replace white people. It's like it's we're not even allowed to have our gods be white anymore, and it's like
Yeah.
to me it's like it's the symbolism of it, and it's just so disrespectful to us, to Europeans, to our culture, to all of it. I'm Northern European in descent, but I was
Me too.
pulled to it
Me too.
like
Yeah.
yeah, by reading by the Greeks. And
Yeah.
I personally am of the opinion that any European can become a Hellenist. Is that, or even anyone worldwide? It doesn't necessarily. You can worship Zeus, but it doesn't mean Zeus is going to make you a king. You know, you might still be a slave, but you can still
Yeah.
worship Zeus.
Yeah.
But for Europeans, especially though, I think it's a part of our DNA. The cultural, the civilizational part of it was the underpinning is Greek philosophy, and it's like
Yeah.
we more or less worship the gods. You know, the Romans obviously we did, um, but the Christians, the Renaissance was kind of like Christianity, but with like a nod to the aesthetics of Greece and the allegorical interpretations, but not really worshiping the gods. But what I think it's got to be all in terms of like the beauty or the power of Hellenism isn't necessarily as much in the philosophy as it is in the religion part of it. Is that the philosophy is basically only for the aristocrats because most people just they're going to read Aristotle and they're not going to
Yeah.
get past the first few sentences
No.
before they give up.
No. They're
And
waiting.
Plato
They're waiting to be told what to do. They are
yeah,
waiting to be
exactly.
told.
And a lot of them don't mind it either. Like,
No.
I make these jokes about like having slaves on Twitter and everything, but people
Yeah.
start blowing up my DMs. Like, seriously, I have like all these like black and brown people like, can I please be your slave at Zoostopia? Can I please be your slave? And they're saying like, I
No.
know that I'm inferior. I want just a big, tall Aryan man to tell me what to do all the time. I'm like, Jesus, they know a lot of them just know it about themselves and they're tired of living in ghettos like they complain to me and like tell me about how terrible their life is and how like I'm one of the few people who um, is actually coming up with a solution for them. A lot of people who are on the right, they're just like, well, let's just kill all of them, or or send them all back to Africa, and it's just like, that's you're not going to get black people on board with with those sorts of ideas. But with slavery, a lot of them, I think, they bought it before. They could have revolted at any point during the American history, and they didn't. If you go back and read a lot of like the actual words of freed slaves. There's a number one. There's one called Slave Narratives. There's another one there, where people went back and they interviewed all these former slaves and they asked them, what do you think about the world today and how was it being a slave? And very often they say that it was way better as a slave, and they loved their master and their master treated them well. And then as soon as they were freed, everything got terrible. Like all the young, like the young people thought that they didn't know how to basically be good, honest, virtuous people in the
Yeah.
hierarchy anymore. They just,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
listen. Let me say this because I thought I was one of the few, very few, even the only at first, making pro-slavery arguments online. But then I saw that you were doing it in a very vociferous, outrageous way, such as you've been saying there. But I would,
yeah, yeah,
I just think the institution is organic. It's always there. It's never left. It's still there. And wage slavery is also slavery. And it's
yeah,
nothing to fucking wring your hands and cry about like a fucking baby or a woman. Like it's
yeah, yeah,
it like the only the only thing I would say is with the knowledge we have now, I wouldn't go for the race-based slavery you're talking about. I think it's better overall that Europeans just enslave lesser intelligent Europeans or conquered
Yeah. Well,
conquered conquered European tribes or their own lowest class of idiots.
yeah.
I just think with the knowledge of what we call race realism now, there's probably just an extra that what we even the Romans didn't know the literal that there was a genetic inherited reason for like lower intelligence and ability. And I just think that I mean, maybe in America, if you want a solution for America, or like places where you're symbiotically tied somehow with a different race. I don't know if such a thing exists. I'm not sure, but like
Yeah.
overall, it's probably better. It just the chances of a revolt or some other kind of problem is that much more with a totally different race. I think probably,
Yeah.
and it's just like to have it as a general system where you have a slave or a serf at least or whatever, something like that, on a naked hierarchy to the king. That is the working classical statecraft
Mhm.
system, and it's great. And it's the way things work, anyways. You just rename everything and pretend it's not happening in
Yeah.
our gay modern system. Like
Yeah.
so, I mean, that's what I would say about it. But
Yeah. Yeah. It's it, the so but, backing up, I personally, so I know a lot of times I talk about race-based slavery and everything, but at the core of what I'm trying to say though is that it should be virtue-based slavery, and so a
I would
lot
say
of
ability based. No, ability based.
yeah,
No.
ability, yeah, or the ability to attain virtue. No, so then Aristotle in his Politics talks. The very first book. That's the first thing he talks about is what is it that makes someone a slave and someone free, and he narrows it down is that their ability to attain virtue on their own. So basically, there's always going to be a certain percentage of the population that they're not able to behave virtuously because they don't have intelligence, because they have inferior genetics. Maybe they're just more impulsive in general. He did
Mm.
kind of point the finger at intelligence, though.
Mm.
What causes people to not have virtue is because they're incapable of developing wisdom and
Well,
actually like
generally speaking, the lowest rung on the ladder in the any caste system, you'll
yeah,
find. I mean, there's some that are intelligent that drop out for other reasons, but
right.
95% of them are there because they're idiots.
Yeah, because they're just not smart enough and they're
Yeah.
too impulsive. You can just you know which people we're talking about, and it's like they they don't think before they act. Like the smarter people are, the more careful they are with their words. They're more careful in the things that they do. And people lower, they're it's all impulse. There's no
Yeah.
rationality behind it.
Impulsive. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
those are the people who need a master. Basically, in order for a society to become just, you need to have the most virtuous people making the laws, and then you
But
need
in
to
a sense,
have
and in a certain sense, we all have a master, unless you're the king or the emperor. There's this
right.
just to follow the hierarchy, and you don't pretend we're all equals
Yeah,
and we're all doing the same thing, and then just sort of sneakily give orders when no one's looking or whatever. You
yeah.
just like are open about everything, honest about it, because you can't
Mhm.
have a civilization without that structure. I don't think.
Right, yeah, you can't. And when you try to destroy the hierarchy, you're basically destroying the civilization. And
Yeah.
that's why like all this woke stuff, they think that they're doing something good and they're supporting equal rights in the brave new world, and it's like no, actually everything you're doing is attacking at the foundation of Western civilization. You're
Mm.
destroying everything. And I hope that they're at least starting to realize that a little bit, because after this last election with Trump and America clearly picking Trump over Kamala, it's like that was a very strong in, anti woke indictment, I thought, because Kamala was
Mm.
basically the woke candidate
Yeah.
and or the diversity candidate or whatever, and America said no. And I think what that says is that we're not that. We're not a woke country. Is that there's people who's trying to shove that stuff down our throats, but especially like younger generations, a lot of people, it's just like that lifestyle is not working out for them. They're miserable. Like they have a crappy job. They're living in a small apartment that costs them $2,000 a month. All their like they can't find a decent woman to marry, or they don't even want to get married because they're too caught up.
Wait, I'm here, but he's gone. Shit, I didn't realize. Did he get booed off? Oops. What happened there? Hold on. One sec. Let me text him. Maybe he thought maybe I froze up or did freeze up for like a good minute or two there. I don't know what's going on. I'm still here. I might have to if he's buggered off altogether. I might have to finish it. Oh wait, there he is. Hold on.
Yo,
Sorry, you're back. What happened?
hey,
Did you
sorry,
leave or
my
did,
phone
did it
overheated.
did it boot you off or did you leave?
No, it my phone overheated and it shut down. So
Oh
I
shit!
just
Oh, that's what
it was
happened. Good.
on
I
the
thought it was mine.
charger. So yeah, it overheated. So we should be good
Oh,
now.
okay,
I
that's
just unplugged it. I got a full battery now.
okay. Good man. Good man. So I missed the whole end of what you were saying. I was listening. I noticed
Yeah.
that I thought I froze up, so I was running a program to
Okay.
try and
Yeah.
like
Remind me, what were we
scan the
talking
DP.
about?
I don't know. You were talking about slaves, probably.
Yeah, slaves.
I mean, I don't know. I just
Oh
wanted to
yeah,
say, like,
virtue-based slavery, Aristotle.
yeah,
Basically, like, so the way that I see it is, you're gonna have to enslave the bottom people. There's always going to be a certain group of people who are just not smart enough to make it in society. Like,
yeah.
so you
But
have
even
to do
amongst them,
something.
even if you enslave a family and their son shows intelligence, I mean, there
Mhm.
was always social mobility in these things. He could always work his
Right.
way out of it. It wasn't like a
Yeah.
verdict for life. And also, you couldn't just kill a slave or do
Mhm.
whatever you wanted with a slave. It's not like I mean,
Exactly.
you could do more with them than Jeff Bezos can do. I guess true, but
Yeah, yeah.
maybe you
Well,
could kill the
especially
odd
for
one.
like a mindset, you know.
But you couldn't just massacre them all and right.
Yeah.
There was laws. There was laws about slaves.
Right. Yeah, and just generally speaking too, I think there was an idea that the gods don't like it when you mistreat people. You know, it's like war and
Yeah,
violence is a necessary part of life. The gods are part of choosing who wins the battles. But when it comes to like keeping slaves and torturing animals and like all these things that are just really vile,
yeah,
there's a divine component to it that the gods
mm,
don't like it, especially Zeus. Is
yeah.
that it's it's like a hostility towards life itself, and just a lack of sympathy or empathy. Like Zeus a lot of times gets depicted as like an angry, almost tyrannical, uh, you know
Philanderer.
philanderer. Yeah, and like, but the truth of the matter, like when you read Homer, he's actually like this more like, uh, I don't want to say gentle, but like kind, wise old man. It's like he's not this angry guy who's going around like hurting people. Like he's stroking his beard and thinking, and people come up to him and they have problems, and and he has to come up with the right solution for what is justice, and what I decide is justice. Like he's a very kind and loving God, as long as you're,
Well, if you
as
go
long
by,
as you're being angry.
I think if you go by Homer, it's more
Mhm.
like everything you're saying is exactly right. He's kind of a gentle patriarch,
Yeah.
which is like as we're supposed to view him. The father, like all this talk of our Father in heaven from Christianity comes from talking about Zeus and Jupiter and
Right. Yeah.
really, it is that's where it comes from. Our sky, which originates with the Aryan Deus, which is still used
Yeah.
in Latin, which is really the word I tend to use. The word which what Zeus comes from, and
Mhm.
Jupiter originates from Deus.
Mhm.
But in Homer, it's more. I think it's more like he is a gentle fatherly figure for whom this is the funny thing about Greek gods versus Christianity, which this is also the paradoxical problems in Christianity, where the omnipotent God, utterly omnipotent, completely controls what happens in the future and the past. So
Right.
in a sense, everybody who's going to hell, he's personally already chosen and damned them to hell, or
Yeah.
cruel and cruel in many ways.
Right.
Whereas Zeus is more of a someone who's beneath nature in many ways, sort of an arbiter of justice, trying to help humanity. He must consult the fates, the Norns, the fates, the three women
Mhm.
controlling the past, present, and future of everyone's lifetime.
Mhm.
He doesn't have, he doesn't control them,
Right.
and it's more like that. And even then, there's question, like there's a revolt of giants and Typhon and so forth against him. People trying to wrestle the power from him that he took from himself from
Kronos,
from
yeah.
from Kronos. And Uranus before him, it was taken from the space god
Yeah,
Uranus, out
exactly.
in space, out there in space.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to make of that, other than that it's also a very natural view to this business as well, and that
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I can only say it's as though it maybe suggests there is no ultimate answer to anything. That if the if the, if there's any truth to these religions and to the system we're living in, the system of life,
Hmm.
and if it's eternal, then maybe there's no limit. There's no top and bottom to the hierarchy either. I don't know if
Hmm.
that makes any sense.
No, I think
Maybe
so.
that's not
Yeah,
sensible.
sure.
Or eventually it's a circle where the bottom comes meets the top again somehow.
Hmm.
I don't know how the fuck it works. This machine.
Yeah, yeah, and we're just we're just little humans on Earth. Like the universe is not about us. Like it's about the stars and the black holes and the supernovas and all this stuff. We're just these tiny little ants on this little spinning uh, fragment of solar driftwood. It's so, but it still doesn't make what we're doing any less important or
No, because
valuable.
we're a macrocosm. Each one of us is a macrocosm of that thing,
Right?
as
Yes.
big as it is. Just as even all life on Earth, originating
Mhm.
within bacteria. Bacteria is still around, for God's sake.
Yeah.
That was the original life, is bacteria, and then
Right.
it was sea plants and
Mhm.
what was the first? There was a term for the first multicellular life. I forget what it is. Some crazy
Mm,
fucking thing. And
okay.
of that, animals was only one subcategory. Animals, like
Yeah.
where cells came together to decide to form a creature
Colonies of
native.
cells. Yeah.
Yeah, uniting, which is what we are.
Yeah.
Even now, is like our brains are the driving hierarchical king of a
Yes.
body of cells.
Yes, exactly. Of this, the body state, the state of the body.
The body state,
Um,
yes, a republic.
yes. Yeah, exactly. And I think about it that way all the time, especially when you think about like justice. It's that justice is to the state as health is to the body, right? Socrates says that. And it's, it's really helpful for people to understand that because justice is a really hard concept to explain to people in like philosophical terms and everything. But
Why do you
when
say
you
that? Because
explain it to them,
there's no other terms for it. I don't think. What it's
what's that?
difficult in like. Why do you think? Why do you say it's difficult? Justice, like. Uh,
Justice, because well, most people nowadays, I would say, they think justice means equality because they've been
oh,
told that that's what it means, and
yeah.
that
Everything's equality for these idiots. Yeah, you're
yes,
right. Yeah.
everything is equality. So justice is, but this, this goes all the way back to Christianity too, and Jesus, and even I would say the Jewish text, the Torah. I think there's a grain of egalitarianism that started with them,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
um, yeah. Anyway, I don't remember
No,
where I was
true,
going
true,
with it.
true. Oh, you were talking about just that. I asked you, why justice can't be explained philosophically,
Oh, right,
or
right, yeah. So they think of it that way that that justice is just fairness. So it's like if you have two kids and you have two cookies, justice is you give one cookie to each kid. And you don't give two cookies to one kid, and that's how they see it in a very like equal sense. They think of like the statue of justice with the balancing, um, and all that stuff is true, but it's meant to serve a higher purpose, which is the health of the state. It's like if equality is making your state unhealthy, then that's not justice. Like justice is healthiness, is a healthy state. It means it's orderly. You don't have chaos. You don't have a lot of crime. Everybody's doing everybody's behaving in a way that helps the state and helps individuals. There's just more virtue. Like if you look, to me, the highest civilization that's ever occurred in all of human history is the Greeks. It's classical Hellenistic, but probably mostly like classical Athens. But not they weren't perfect, but the things that they were doing were just so far beyond everybody else. Like their art, their athletics, their politics, just the way that they approached life, like the bravery and just like it's they were completely above everybody else. They still weren't divine, they're imperfect. They were mortals too, and if you read all the history, like Thucydides and Xenophon and these guys, like there's a lot of bad decisions that the Athenians were making because it's
Yeah,
a democracy, and there's like things like, well, what should we do?
and
I don't know what we should do.
the
Cut his
whole
head
the whole
off.
war
It's
with
like,
the whole war with the
that was it.
Peloponnesians should not have was not a good idea.
What's that?
I don't think the entire war with the Peloponnesians should have happened. That's basically what destroyed them in the end.
Yeah, yeah,
I
oh,
don't
yeah,
think they should have
absolutely. Yeah, I think
done that at all.
they got high on their own success. You know, they
Yeah,
were really uh, dominating, and then they made some bad decisions. You know how they were using the funds of the Delian League. I guess what's called the Delian League, and they were funneling the funds to themselves. Like they caused their own demise. You know, it's like they set
sadly, yes. Yeah.
the scene for Philip and Alexander to subjugate him. And
But that's why, for me, in many ways, I kind of tend to think the ultimate example is Rome, even though like you can never. It's like they say of Plotinus and Plato. Like Plotinus, in many ways, was the bigger mind. In some ways, the bigger man. But you can never say he outshines the originator of such a great idea, which was Plato.
right.
So you can never say the Romans truly outshine the Greeks. But
Mhm.
in some ways, they really pushed the idea. First of all, they showed us that you can take Hellenism, readopt it, reapply it,
Mhm.
and push it forward again in
Yeah,
your own way for your
do
own
something
reason.
good with it.
They did
Mhm.
that very thing, and they pushed it even farther. And they had complete confidence,
Mhm.
and they did great good. They did
Yeah.
great, great things with it, more than the
Mhm.
Greeks ever did. Really
Yes.
did great things for a long, long time.
Mhm.
So it just shows, like, you know, what can be done, what can be done.
Right, especially with that sort of Roman like can-do spirit of like, they're it's all about like efficiency and just like building things, monumental things. Like have the purpose of a Roman was Rome. Like everything you did was for the state. Uh, but the thing is, though, over time, and I think a lot of Romans knew this, is that there was a more barbaric, like they of course they had some fantastic minds, but I think what happened was that they got so big and there were so many just uh, plebs basically, is that the people on top, the aristocracy, just couldn't control it anymore. Rome had gotten so big and there were just so many people, they couldn't control it. So basically at that point, after Caesar had crossed the Rubicon, then the job of the emperor was basically just to keep Rome from collapsing for the next
Well,
300
I don't
years.
know. There was many great, even much long for ages after Caesar. There was many great emperors and many excellent things.
Yes.
Augustus,
Hmm.
Marcus Aurelius, and
Yeah.
I mean, arguably, so many of them did so many excellent things.
Right.
So I don't know about that. I wouldn't say from then on it was downhill. Like there was some. I mean, I tend to agree with Spengler that everything runs its cycle
Mhm.
and runs out of steam. Even Egypt eventually. Egypt was the longest of all the civilizations,
Right.
and they eventually succumbed to Greece and then Rome, and then they
Yeah.
were done. Like whatever's left of the Egyptians is now the Copts. Maybe they can come back somehow
Mhm.
if they ever. You don't see much of them sort of trying to restore Egyptian religion. Probably it's very difficult in a Muslim country to do such
Yeah.
a thing. I don't know.
There are some people doing it though. I've met some of them. Yeah, and they hate Islam. The Persians too. They're trying to go back to
Yeah, if
Zoroastrianism.
anything, I do meet a lot of Iranians online who are
Yeah.
Zoroastrians and things like that. Yeah,
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 that
they're more
that
than
that religion never died. Like people kept worshiping that.
yeah.
There was always a segment of the population that kept the
There's some temple in Iran, and this was true. This was true in Rome. Christians
Mhm.
put an end to it, but they should start it again, and it's very Hellenistic. But there's some
It's
place in Iran that still has the temple fire going all these centuries. Would you believe?
oh really?
There's
It's still going?
Zoroastrians believe in a keeping a fire going forever kind of thing,
Right.
and there's some temple there that's supposedly kept it going,
Huh.
which is obviously what you do to worship Hestia, Vesta, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Vesta to the Romans, Hestia to which is the home fires, keep the home fires burning,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
So there should be a temple somewhere, but a fire never is allowed
Right.
to go out.
Yeah. because the
And
presence of the divine.
I believe, I could be wrong. I hope I'm not wrong. I could be wrong. I believe Zoroastrians have maintained one somewhere.
A temple somewhere. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
where
would.
the
I
fire
know that
near one.
they have had numbers. I think there's. It's not small. I think there's like maybe 500. No, 100,000 of them or something. Like, it's not just a few larpers on the internet. Like they're a real religion with temples and stuff. And Freddie Mercury was a Zoroastrian.
Was
And
he?
I'm for it. There are some questions about it though, because there's this Greece versus Persia aspect, and the Greeks thought the Persians were barbarians, and Nietzsche also talks about this about Zarathustra or
Mm.
Zoroaster, is that he's the
Thus
first one
spake
to make.
Zarathustra. Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, his book, Thus Spake Zarathustra. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he talks in that his sister had a prologue that she wrote to that. And I think she talks about like how he came up to this idea of this character of Zarathustra that he created. But I know for one, he said somewhere, it was either in the prologue, that the character of Zarathustra was meant to undo the harm. Like he saw the idea of a slave morality manifesting in a religion began with Zoroaster. Is that he was the first one to make this good and evil dichotomy, and that life is the struggle between good and evil. And Nietzsche obviously like wants to go beyond good and evil, so he makes this character Zarathustra as being his mouthpiece to undo the harm that Zoroaster did in the beginning. I don't know enough about Zoroastrianism to really comment.
That could be more of Nietzsche's sensationalism, sort of trying to point a finger at a previous philosopher. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I
possible.
don't know that much about it either. But
Yeah,
there was certainly concepts of good and evil and punishment for evil in all paganism. I
right.
mean, even
Yeah,
the word hell is like a Nordic pagan word.
is it?
For the goddess, one of her half her face is zombified. She's
Oh,
the goddess of hell, and Hades, obviously in the Greek.
yeah.
And I believe it's the same. So if you want to look to how it's would have worked paganistically, you look to the Hindus,
Hmm.
and they do have a concept of hell, but it's not forever. It's a temporary business and you are
Okay.
there
Yeah.
depending on how good or bad you lived. You
Right.
spend some time in hell, and so that's evidence that it was that good and evil and punishment for evil was always there in paganism as
Yeah.
well. So I would just say that an argument against what Plato was saying about Zoroaster there.
Yeah. No,
Not
I would
against what
agree
you
with
did.
you. I think that is another one of those things where Nietzsche took it too far. Sometimes I wonder how much he actually read, because I forgot which book it is, but it's like Ecce Homo,
Well, he
one
seemed
of
pretty
those.
smart. I don't know. He did seem pretty smart. I mean, he is
He
the
was very
third best
smart.
philosopher
Yeah,
of all time, or
very
fourth.
well read, obviously like a prodigy philologist. But he says something in one of those books where he talks about having a disdain for reading. Like, I'll
Yeah.
find this quote for you. I'll send it to you. It's like something about how he doesn't read anymore because he thinks it upsets his thinking. Like he would rather just think, because like when he reads books, especially if they're inferior philosophers to him, they're clouding his judgment. So he
Well,
like
I
says
can see
something
that.
like
I
he's
can see that.
intentionally not reading.
I can see
At
that.
least
I
in
can
that
see
book.
that. I know. I can see that to a certain degree. Once you've read to a certain point, maybe and you realize
Right.
how precious the good books are. Like, you
Yeah.
know.
Obviously he had read a whole bunch when he was younger. He was very
Yeah.
well educated, and you can read in his books like he's citing all these classic texts. He was clearly read in all the classics. But sometimes though I do wonder where, like, did he even read Aristotle? Because he doesn't even mention Aristotle at all. Maybe like once or
Aristotle is
twice.
so. I mean, Plato can be hard in parts, but holy shit, Aristotle is hard to read. I mean,
Yeah,
Aristotle is
yeah, it is hard. It's
fucking
better
difficult.
to like go back. I think like the first time I read Politics and the Ethics, I just like I did an audiobook and I just went all the way through it. So it's like you just try to pick out ideas you can, just get a general idea of what the book is about, and then go back
Yeah.
and start like reading individual sections. Like, what did
Yeah.
it mean?
You
You
have
got
to
to go
reread it.
sentence by
Yeah.
sentence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a hard slog, and even then, some parts you'll never get. But I remember I read his Ethics was the last one I read, and
Mm.
it goes like that. You read it, you can go through several pages not really knowing what's going on, and then but then he'll say something, you'll be like, and it'll be like
Right.
a brutal the cutting scalpel of truth, which
Right.
is like,
Yeah,
oh,
exactly. He hit it,
so it's sort of like
it was
it's
something
worth
that nobody
slogging through it.
saw.
It's worth slogging through it, right? But like, it's
Yeah.
difficult. It's so advanced. It's so. I mean, if this is a guy that taught Alexander the Great to, like,
Right.
you're right. This is a person, like a mythical person from history, and you can read it, and it's like so.
I know. Yeah, it's just
Like
it's
the
way
fact that people
beyond.
discount the idea of discounting such a person as Aristotle or Plato,
Yeah.
is so, it insults me so deeply. It makes me
Yeah.
so angry, and like the idea of it, like such a we're so lucky that such a person ever came to existence, and
Yeah, I know.
the fact that frankly, and when I realized this, and I bring it up with Christian friends, and
Mm.
I don't tend to shit on Christians too much. I try not to, because I believe their morality, as I said, is somewhat ingrained in this. So I try not to attack them too much. But
Yeah.
you read the Bible,
Yeah. I
and it's
try
like,
to attack
what?
Christianity, but not actually Christians. It's like,
No, I'm glad you're there doing what you do. It's
mm,
probably necessary. Maybe I should be like more like that. I don't know, but I just, and part of it is like, would you think, even considering the influence and for how long on Europe that he had, that Jesus should be considered a deity in the pantheon, or like Hindus do, or what would you say about that?
yeah, that's a good question. And some people have brought this up. Like, is there a way to have a sort of like Christian paganism, or like a like Christian Hellenism, or a sort of world where Christians and pagans can actually live together? And I can't, the only thing I can't get past is the Bible. It's like the Bible is a big long Jewish book about how bad paganism is. It's like, how are we supposed to like
Yeah,
be
it's all
friends
about
with this
Israel, and the Romans
whole
are
person?
evil, and yeah,
Yeah, we are as far as they're concerned, we are the worst. Like, we're even worse than atheists because we worship demons. At least atheists are just dumb and, haven't come to God or whatever. But like, we're active demon worshippers to them. Like, most Christians, I will say, are pretty, moderate. And I know a lot of Christians too, and I'm friends with a lot of Christians. I don't have anything against them. I
just
think
for the
we
reasons I
actually get
said,
along.
though, for the incredible influence Jesus obviously had on our
Mhm.
people. Would you not, like? I don't know what to make of. I'm not saying I ascribe to that. I don't really,
Yeah.
probably, I don't know, but just like, what, like, that's for someone who views things superstitiously, like me, looking for the augurs, the eagle in the sky.
Mhm.
Which I noted tonight, actually, before we did this, that the moon is, I'm not sure it's full, but it's almost full. I don't know.
Is it? Okay.
It's
Nice.
almost full. Yeah, yeah. It's a good sign. Yeah, but just that means something. I don't know. But like, for all the ridiculousness, I
Yeah.
agree. The Bible is just like ludicrous, and it's like,
Right.
but like, you can't deny, for whatever reason, this incredible impact. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
it
I'm
is.
not sure what to make of that. Like,
Yeah, you mentioned too, like it's gotten into our DNA because we've been Christians for 2,000 years, and so
yeah,
all those Christian decisions have made an effect on who we are
mhm,
as a people. Um,
yeah,
they did seem like this seems to be the major question of Western civilization is between Greece and Judea, or Athens and Jerusalem. Some people say Rome and Jerusalem. I really think it's Greece, though. It's like it's the
mhm,
philosophy versus faith, or philosophy versus Judaism,
yeah,
um, and it's that Christianity has had this in Europe, has had this push and pull with Greece. It's like full real Christianity it's a death cult. Like, you really just have to check out of life, sell all your possessions, let people slap you, give your coat away. Like, you become a bum basically. You go live on the street. It really, because like, you're not supposed to have possessions because your kingdom is not of this world. Like, you check out of this life and you're looking forward to the next life. So Jesus says, be nice to everybody and wash their feet and stuff. And that's all you should do, because you shouldn't be out there having wars. You shouldn't be engaging in politics. You shouldn't even be getting married, because Jesus is coming back and he's going to wipe, I guess he's going to burn the whole earth down. And then after that, he's going to let all the good people that worshiped him live in eternal life with God. But that's real Christianity, and most Christians don't believe that. It's like they're more pragmatic and realist. Like, you can't just become a bum. You have to like get a job, and you have to grow crops and stuff. And so they made this through Saint Augustine and Thomas Aquinas. They made this synthesis of Greece and Rome. It's that
Yeah.
it's Christianity, but
Here's your
we're
Neoplatonism
what's that?
injected. Here they injected Neoplatonism into it. Yeah.
Yeah, Neoplatonism. Yeah, Augustine. That because to keep it from collapsing, because like the Christians were just like going out into the mountains and like starving themselves and getting martyred and everything. And it's like, hold on, you can't run a country like this. All of Rome collapsed, all of Europe descended into chaos. The Byzantine Empire went east, but then the rest of Europe just fractured into all these warring kingdoms and principalities. And so it was like we have to come up with something. We have to build society again because Christianity destroyed it. But people weren't ready to get rid of Jesus, because there is, I think I know what you're getting at too, or hopefully, is that there's a sort of calming effect that Christianity has that others don't. Like there's this like Jesus is going to wrap his arms around you and everything's going to be okay. He's not like the gods that make you have to do athletics and be excellent and virtuous and brave and go fight wars. He's like, you don't have to do any of
I wasn't thinking of it. I wasn't thinking of it on a personal level at all. I'm just thinking of the raw, the undeniable impact of 2,000 years of having lived this way. I don't know. It just seems like, wow, that's a power. Like there was a power there of some kind.
Oh yeah,
maybe
like
negative. Maybe you just think it's negative, and then it was Typhon all along, or something. Or
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the ethics are basically almost identical to Aristotle's. Like it's like marriage and family, and the woman should obey the man, and you have a hierarchy in society, and even in Christianity, like slavery was, at least as far as Paul said, it's like there's nothing against slavery in the Bible.
It's the turn the other cheek stuff that's really
right. Exactly.
And that's the only philosophy in the Bible.
Right.
There's not even there's no philosophy in. That's the other thing. If you look like if God was to give you a book, a Tractatus, and say here's the here's the knowledge for you,
right?
Is it going to be something like Plato, like just this compendium of just barely understandable, excellent actual knowledge, or is it going to be this random edict of commands and this crazy story like do this or else kind of thing? That's all. Most of the Bible is just that. There's no reason given. There's no deep philosophy.
Just God.
It's just like a list of laws, and then the only philosophy is the Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah.
See, I've often asked Christians, where's the deep philosophy? Like, what? And it's always that, of which the only real lesson is turn the other cheek.
Right.
And that's fine in like a certain way, but it's not great, and we really need to get around that now more than ever. Like, geez,
right?
For God's sake, it's killing us. Yeah. That is killing us.
Yeah, we're getting slapped over and over again. Like white people, especially, like, we're just letting them slap us.
Oh, slap me again! Like, yeah, I love it.
It's like we just need to fight back. It doesn't. I think you're right though to bring up that it's like you can go too far in the opposite direction. Like there is a good message in the turn the other cheek, right? It's that it's often not the right idea to fight. Like if you're at a bar or something and someone were to slap you, and you don't know who this person is it the right idea to get in a fight with him? Like the dude could have a knife, you could hit him and then he falls back and cracks his head open. Now he sues you for $1 million. Like there's all kinds of bad things that can happen. Usually to not fight is the better.
Yeah, but you're thinking materialistically there. You're thinking a bit materialistically there. The outcome, if you're being virtuous and you're getting proper justice, it doesn't matter what happens in many ways. Life may not treat you fairly overall, but still you've acted like a man. Right?
By turning the other cheek?
No, by hitting him.
By hitting him,
by doing the right thing. As long as you haven't been an asshole and it's justified.
Right. Yeah.
There's an honor question. You're truly, absolutely justified. You followed all the laws of politeness. All your wits are about you, etc.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been attacked and you're defending virtue properly, life and justice may not be outwardly be fair to you, but still you've done the right thing.
Yeah. I think that's right, especially when you're like defending yourself or you're defending other people that love you.
I look at it this way. Let's just list some examples. Like say, there's a lot to be said for when somebody does start something, does the first thing, for instance. Right? Mm-hmm. So like a very modern conception I hear. Let's say when a terrorist or a country or some villain of some kind does something. from women, I get these arguments a lot where like if you do the same thing back to them, it's not justice. It's like, oh, you're just as bad as them then.
Oh,
Is
right.
that
Yeah.
this kind of bullshit, right? It's like
Yeah.
no.
Two
It
wrongs
matters
don't make
very
a right.
much. It matters extremely much when
Yes.
somebody out of the firstly attacks you. That is the basis of justice, really.
Right.
If somebody has, for no good reason, attacked you, the way that let's say Israel is doing in Palestine, or there's countless examples, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't just say you have to admit that there's some blame there, and justice is it's very very much just to get an eye for an eye. That's another biblical thing that's good. That's a very pagan thing, is an eye for an eye.
Mhm.
But like, okay, I'll give you an example I can think of where Christian morality. This is probably the only example. Oh no, there's a couple examples of where Christian morality was an improvement, which is, let's say, the exposed babies on the hillside business, which was prevalent throughout Greece and Rome. It's in the annals. It's in it's in. I've read it. I think in the annals of Caesar, I've read about it, and also it was either in Tacitus or Plutarch. And it's basically you're
About
like,
infanticide.
in fact, you're like unwanted babies left on the hillside.
Yeah,
And
Aristotle talks about it too.
And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, that's it. And there's an even worse one, in a Norse pagan one. I read an account of a Viking city that was on an island in a lake, and somebody went there, either a Christian or an Arab or something, and he said there was at one spot every month there was this place where the Vikings would throw unwanted babies into the lake, just like wing them by their legs, whip, whip, whip. Right? So
that's one way to do it.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, that's a bit harsh.
Yeah, it is harsh. Yeah. It's a difficult
like
question.
mindset we maybe don't we want to, like, it's only because of Christian values. You can like, I'm just making the one argument you can make in favor of some of being a little bit charitable or what's the word? I don't know.
I think
even for many pagans, maybe that was a problem. I don't know, but there wasn't much. You didn't read about much complaining about the exposed babies because at the same time, let's say now there's like, I wouldn't agree with people's lives get ruined keeping a person alive that maybe shouldn't be.
Right. Yeah.
What the Romans would have called a monstrous birth. So that's another issue. But what in terms of what we're talking about, what I'm speaking of, we're just talking about unwanted, healthy, intelligent babies, and that's a bit harsh. That this is the one. I'm making the most extreme example. So that's something also from paganism. I don't think we would, or we would want a certain amount of justified infanticide.
Yeah, right. Because there's always going to be some
not just because like, I don't want this baby, throw it in the lake.
Right. Yeah. And I think you made the point too that Nietzsche makes his point also, is that it's actually more, depending on the deformity of the baby or the retardation, it's more cruel to let it live. Is that you're basically you're like, here now you have to live this terrible life. Nobody's going to like you. You're never going to get married. You'll probably never get laid. You're going to die.
And the child itself, depending, is often suffering horribly for decades.
Exactly. And it's like when creatures die all
because
the
they
time.
don't have the balls to deal with it decisively. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. It's like, so I'm kind of, we got to be careful about that because, like, this baby, it's not tall and beautiful. Its eyes are green, so we're gonna off it. It's like, no, I think it should be reserved for just deformed
brown eyes.
babies.
Yeah. Oh, it's got brown eyes. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So they just. I think you got to be temperate with it, but this is the thing. It's like, whereas the Christians, I'm pretty sure that it's anti-infanticide. I don't know if it talks about it at all in the Bible.
Yeah.
But I think most of them nowadays, I mean, how anti-abortion they are. Like, infanticide's even worse. Like, if you said, "Hey, well, actually, we should have the baby and then throw it off a cliff," what do you think?
Well, I mean,
they would go crazy.
Nowadays, I think we've officially entered a kind of bizarre post-Christian
Yeah.
irreligious thing where we still have the equality values, and it's this
Mhm.
incredibly feminized. It's not even true compassion. It's like a exhibition of compassion, where it's like,
Right. Yeah.
examine how much I care about,
Right.
universalism. Look at my, and
Yeah.
it's just
Look
this
at how
showy bullshit
progressive
thing.
I am.
Yeah, it's so stupid because you have none of the reward. At least Christianity had a reward system for this behavior.
Right.
Now it's
Yeah. You
just
get
passion.
eternal life for it.
Yeah, now they get nothing, and they just do it for I don't know what.
Yeah. I don't
But
know.
more
I think
in a more extreme way.
it's
Like the Christians were never this actually universalist. They were
right.
actually
Yeah.
very pagan
Yeah.
for
They
a very
were.
long time. They were very pagan. Like they did the Crusades, and they were willing to go and
Right.
kill, and you
Yeah.
know,
They're just
right?
being Europeans. It's like,
Yeah,
but they,
yeah,
it's the struggle with all that stuff about the turn the other cheek and, you know, what does he say? Do not draw your sword. All who draw the sword will die by the sword. Like, it's very anti-war. It's very pacifistic. And there can't, in my view, there's no way that we're going to be able to do the space conquest if we're all a bunch of uh, Christians, essentially. Like, there seems to be a lot of Christians that are Christians in name only. They're basically pagans. They believe in most of the stuff that I believe in, but they just think God wants those things. And I try to tell them, I'm like, you need to read the Bible because you have no idea that what you believe is the exact opposite of what Jesus told you to do. And they they seem impervious to it. They can't seem to grasp that Jesus was very pacifistic and that all this stuff that's going wrong right now, if you want to like kick people out of your country, like then like you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to love foreigners, the Good Samaritan. I just wish that they would read the Bible more because I think if they did, they'd probably be like, I don't know if I agree with this stuff, and they might try something else. But maybe there is a future for Christianity. My thought is that if you look at the numbers, it seems like Europeans, especially in Africa, they're becoming more Christian, but Europeans are ditching the church in very big numbers. And what I think this does is it's creating a society of agnostics and atheists that are quickly going to figure out that nihilism is not fun. Like you
yeah,
basically need to worship something.
yeah,
If you're going to worship liberty or you're going to worship whatever, you need to have some sort of gods to look towards to give life meaning. And what
yeah,
I'm hoping is that us as Hellenists can actually be that person. Be like, hey, look, Zeus. Worshiping Zeus is what they took from us in the beginning, and because a lot of these atheists and agnostics, like they hate Christianity with a passion, even though they're more Christian than the actual Christians, in terms of their egalitarian.
to hate it properly, though, they need to hate it for our reasons, which is the fact that it's so, frankly, Semitic.
Right? Yeah, yeah. It's Semitic.
They need
Yeah,
to not hate it
it's
because
very
it's
effeminate.
because it tells you what to do or anything like it. They have to hate it for the proper reasons. And I would make the devil's advocate argument one last time, only in
Mhm.
that I'm not even sure why, because I do agree with you, but
Mhm.
just in my own way that I want to not completely discount Christianity or
Mhm.
somehow factor it in. Like look at let's say one of the greatest examples of achievement
Mhm.
and courage was the moon landing, which your country organized, right?
Right.
And I recall one of the first things they did when they reached the moon or did their first orbit of the moon or something is Buzz Aldrin and all those guys read from the Bible. They read some passage. I
Right.
don't remember what it was. Those
I think it
they
was
were,
Genesis. I think it was the
yeah, they were Anglo Saxons of that
third.
time. So look at the level of achievement as Hellenists, right? We must admit the
Mhm.
level of achievement is great,
Right.
and that's what they chose to do.
Mhm.
So that, like, what does that say? That tells me that's a sign that I don't know what. I still don't, believe it. I just think that, but I just think, I don't know. We need to somehow combine with it and remove all the nonsense from it. But I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah.
only superstitiously, and in that sense that's what they did. And you can always
Yeah.
say, well, they were mistaken, but that's why I personally choose to say Deus and
Mm,
go for the older version that's still used in Latin, etc.,
mm,
of the Sky Father,
mm.
and that there's an old, because even for the Greeks, they were only interpreting something a little bit older. That was true
Right.
also for everybody, all the Europeans and everybody else. That was
Yeah, it had a much
the
earlier.
Aryan religion, the Iranians and everybody started
Yeah.
out with the same thing, whatever it was, and it evolved differently over time. And the evolution you can see in religion as rationalists, I
Mm,
think, speaks to the fact that I think we choose the name we choose ourselves the name we to choose the name for God,
mm.
and it only really has relevance to us.
Right.
Maybe the main thing is that we show reverence one
Right.
way or the other. I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I'm
I
getting very
agree.
preachy there. Go on.
Yeah, I think the Christian side of things is you bring up a good point about how Christians accomplish things. It's like there's
Well, they
not
did. Not anymore. They
was
did.
that
Not anymore. I mean,
yeah yeah not
Buzz
anymore,
Aldrin, and
yeah,
Neil Armstrong were riding high on the. That was still the tail end of the Renaissance in many ways. They
right,
did
yeah,
choose.
yeah,
They
that's
did
true,
choose because they were American guys of that time and place. They read from the Bible, but
right.
they were in space around the moon. I mean, the Bible doesn't have. The Bible is almost on Earth is flat, kind of. It's
Right,
so.
yeah, I know. It's like you've
Uh,
just disproved the book that you're reading from. You're heading around the moon right now.
does it say that it's flat? I don't know. I don't know, but I think it's close to it. It almost says something like that.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think that what we're really seeing, the benefit of Christianity is something that you see in all religions, is that it ties you to some idea of the form of the good. And so, like from Plato's perspective, like the form of the good is beyond us. We can't control it. It's like there is a idea of what it constitutes good behavior for a human, and like things like marriage, ethics, politics, a lot of these things, like we didn't choose them. The philosophers just discovered them. And what Christianity, basically all religions, is they all have that traditionalist aspect where it's like it's the part of the religion is to get women to obey their husbands so that they can form households that have peace and harmony. Because as soon as the woman stops obeying the husband, that's when all the problems start happening. And
yeah,
so,
in a household, yeah,
yeah, so basically every religion says that women should obey their husbands and that they should get married and have kids.
yeah.
And because that's what you need to have happen in society to have a society. Like
Oh,
men and
there's
women
nothing
need to
without
get
that.
married and
There's
have
no.
kids, you
Yeah.
know?
See, that's a
So,
basic one. That's a good one that you go on about that I often do myself. But it's so
yeah,
it's in modern society that is so such an effrontery. Apparently, like I don't know. Like
yeah,
really, if you examine it for rationally for a moment, not only are we talking about birth rates, which is
right,
really the main thing, just have
right.
birth rates alone, and
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
equality first.
You cannot have feminism. You cannot have it, and
Yeah,
like absolutely, the rise in divorce is synonymous with the rise in feminism on
exactly.
a chart.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely
right.
beside each other,
It's
right?
regulated.
But even on top of that, we have the feminization of culture itself, and where women are in all these managerial positions and all these
Right,
things, and totally feminized.
right.
All this. It's hilarious to me when they get into a loop and they don't even realize it, and then they start blaming men again. That happened a few times, like when they started the fat thing, where they're like, "It's I'm proud to be fat."
Oh,
It's like
yeah, yeah,
it was all against those women's magazines, like the magazines,
right.
the fashion magazines they would buy that only women and gays would produce.
Right, yeah. We didn't look at
And
that shit.
like
You
men
know,
never
it's like,
bought, men never bought or paid any attention to those fucking things. Then all of
right,
a sudden they were like, "Oh, men are trying to make us thin,"
right.
and then later on it
I
was
know,
the
it's like
trans.
you're the ones who buy those magazines, like,
Yeah,
because they want to
what the
see
fuck
it,
is wrong with us? I like a nice roundy, like a Marilyn Monroe type woman.
Yeah,
And like you never see them in those fucking magazines. It's you did that to
right.
yourself. And then there
Yeah,
was the whole really the gay and trans thing was
yeah.
mostly. I know it was supported by our tunneler friends, but and
Mm.
in a sense that maybe they're more to blame, but women really did that to themselves. The whole gender business, trying
Right.
to argue that there's nothing to gender and it's all fluid and this and that, and
Right.
it doesn't
It's
matter
just
if
the
you're a
way
man
the
or a
women.
woman. It's all this. It's all has a basis in feminism.
Yeah, it's just
Well,
it's
that's,
all
and that came back to bite them in their sports, right?
yeah,
And then they
yeah,
try to blame men again.
right.
It's like, no, you did
Yeah,
that.
I know. It's like, but really, it's like when it comes down to it, it is men's fault because we're the ones who let them get away with this.
Well,
Like, I
true.
see it as like a parent and a child. Like, women right now are like petulant children, just like gone crazy. That we're the parents that never disciplined our children, so now they're going crazy and causing all kinds of problems. So,
Yeah.
whose fault is it? Is it the child's fault or the parents? And it's
Well, that's true.
obviously
But
the
like,
parents'
say
fault.
when you and I, if you and I on Twitter try to say correct them,
Yeah,
there's a big
the women.
backlash. Oh, the big mean man.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
no,
Well,
we're
it's
not
like
even trying. We're not even trying to be mean. We're just trying to get some semblance of goodness and rationality and
yeah, rebuild
normal.
society, put the household back together, like get marriage and family going again. It's completely
Yeah.
destroyed now, and it's like
Mm.
we're like some women realize this. It's not all women are feminists. I think even women on the right do have a bit of feminism, at least the ones that you see on like Twitter or X and stuff, because just generally speaking, I think women speaking publicly is not something women should be doing. Like politics is our business. You know, you stay home, you have the babies, you like manage the household and do all that stuff. I'm the one who goes out and does the politics and the war and everything. And the reason
Mm.
is because like they don't think like men, like rationally. And so when they come out with all this emotional stuff, it's just chaos everywhere. And so it's our job to be the order. Like we have to come in and basically like what happened in Iran in whatever the year the revolution came is the men just said no, we're not going to put up with it anymore. They grabbed him by the hair, dragged him back into the kitchen and be like, you're going to cook now, and that's what I'm saying, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it worked, and they got him back in there. I mean, now there's a different thing about that. I don't know if I necessarily support like Iranians or Islam or the way that they did it, but the women aren't going to go back in the kitchen on their own. Like we have to force them to do it. And so,
Well, I mean,
you know,
in my own personal case, I have a kind of traditional wife, and she kind of does that anyway. So I'm
does that
lucky.
naturally. Yeah. So
Well,
you
I'm
lucked
lucky.
out. Yeah.
I don't have
There
to like do
still
anything.
exist. Yeah.
Well,
But there's
occasionally I
not
tell her
many.
my ideas. I will tell her these things that we're talking about.
Mhm.
And it's not like she isn't even then. It's not like she disagrees. It's more like she gets kind of quiet and sort of like it's not like she loves it or anything.
Yeah. Or probably
But
just
she's
doesn't care, you know? I think a lot of
well,
women
no,
just
she
don't.
like she kind of. I think it's like she will start every now and again. She'll try to make a pseudo feminist kind of statement or argument, and I'll say and explain why it's wrong.
Right.
And then she'll get quiet for a bit, and then I will never hear it again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a good
So
thing. You know, it's like it's your
oh,
job
it's
as a
good.
man to
Oh,
like
yeah,
help
it is
women
good.
understand things because
Hmm.
they can't they think of everything through like emotions in their heart and what's their heart telling them to do, which is good because they're supposed to be mothers
Yeah,
uh, and taking care of the family. They're supposed to be nurturing, and so we shouldn't
but
be like getting mad at
you
them.
have to you literally have to keep them busy.
Right.
If they're not kept busy, there's two things that happen. If I'm honestly, and I've noticed this with not just my wife but other girlfriends, like you know, everything like all the reasons we've listed, birth rates and feminization of culture, etc. Also in your personal life and in the home, if they're not kept busy,
Mhm.
um,
Trouble.
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Danger.
it leads to like bad decisions and activism and it's great when they have kids and they've got something to do and it fulfills them utterly. And it's
Mhm.
the one thing that doesn't drive them insane. Ultimately, it seems like I don't
It's
know.
children.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
really what they're designed for. Like if they don't get that, it seems like they're destined for insanity or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, they go insane. Like I've known a lot of women, you know, that are like my age and I grew up with them, and they, for whatever reason, they weren't able to get that stable household, marriage, and family. And when they turn 40, they go crazy. Like they need to get put on all kinds of medicines. Like I shouldn't say the word crazy. It's like it's serious mental illness, like depression, anxiety. Like they can't function
Yeah,
anymore. It's because
yeah.
there's something missing.
Well, let's not be PC about our word usage
Yeah,
ever for any reason, right?
yeah. I try to be at least somewhat temperate in my word choices. You know, um, But yeah, it's I think they'll they like you pointed out about them needing to be kept busy. I think this is one of the things that I learned a lot from the Greeks and about weaving and the importance of women weaving is
Yeah,
that
weaving. Yeah,
yeah, weaving, all
yeah,
that kind of crafty stuff, like you need to make sure that they do that. And so it's like
yeah.
sewing clothes or weaving or making embroidery or whatever it is. Like you can't just be like, okay, make babies and cook and clean and take care of the babies and that's all you do. Like there has to be some other project. And the thing is like if they're weaving or if they're making craft
And you
type
shouldn't.
things, you
You
can
shouldn't.
turn around and
I don't.
sell them, for the
I should.
household.
Are you a married man? Can I
I'm
ask?
not married. No, I've never been
Okay.
married.
Well, let me just say this. Like, I'm not as someone with experience. I wouldn't
Hmm.
be opposed against. I'm not at all opposed to cleaning or cooking or anything like that
Hmm.
either, to help out or anything like that whatsoever. But in terms of weaving, and Hellenistically speaking, like that was a something about that is something about textiles is inherently
Hmm.
female. And so
Right.
in ancient Greece, I believe they would there was always a competition to weave something at the foot of Athena or something like that, some kind of, or something put on the statue of Athena.
I
Do you know
know
about
that you
this?
can
I
make
read about it.
offerings of woven fabrics. That's a good offering to give to Athena because she's the goddess of crafts.
I know.
And
I
or like a
believe there
burnt
was a
offering.
routine. There was a routine contest of weaving associated with Athena. I don't remember what it was, and they
That's
would,
cool. I mean,
yeah,
I know
something.
that the Arachne and Athena myth where she competed with Arachne and turned her into a spider. But
Because okay, and look at this. If you're a feminist and you're watching this, like think of this. Because I understand if you are a true Hellenist, you must understand the nature of dichotomy
mhm,
and the paradoxes in religion and life, right?
mhm,
So that even as misogynist sounding as we are, that there's female goddesses that we would hold to the highest regard. And even as I
right,
said before, even
yeah,
Zeus had even Zeus did not have power over the fates,
right,
the three women,
yeah, and
and
Hera too. She tricked
we
him,
are fine. We are
multiple
fine with that.
times. Yeah,
And yeah, Hera and I mean the goddess of wisdom is Athena,
right, yeah.
Minerva.
That's very
Um,
significant.
Tritogenia. I prefer her third name, Tritogenia. That's who
Yeah,
I
try to
call her.
genuine. Yeah, what
Tritogenia.
it's
Yeah.
it's her thrice birth or no? What is it? It's not the birth. It's a. I looked that up once. I love that because Homer uses that phrase. Zeus calls her Trichogenea multiple times. And
Because
do you
like
know
here in
that?
Ireland, here in Ireland, you always see statues to Mary and stuff, and it's
Mhm.
very like really they're kind of it's very pagan, and they're kind of worshiping Bridget or something. But I always think, there's Tritogenia. Excellent.
Yeah, yeah. She's so powerful. I think what because like to me, I'm closest to
See, like,
Zeus and Athena.
but think of the paradox there. We are complaining about their irrationality, while the goddess of wisdom is a woman. So at the same
Yeah,
time, like that's like, but that's perfect. It's perfect in a way.
right.
That
Yeah,
is
well,
the way
and
it should
she's
be.
got masculine qualities. It's like for one, she's a virgin, so um, she's not associated with anything impure or sexual related. She's she's dressed in warrior's clothing with a horsehair plumed helmet and the aegis. And holds a spear. Like she's very masculine, but she's a woman, and I think that that's really significant. Is that there's a if Athena were a man, there would be this like hard, violent aspect to it. Whereas like Athena has this nurturing quality to her. It's like wisdom is like nurturing. It's not violent. Um, it can manifest as violence, but the wisdom itself is like a blessing. It's goodness, and that it feels more natural to come from Athena than like Ares or something, or Apollo even like Paulo is more of like a masculine rationality type of god, but like wisdom is like the fruit of it. It's like the fruit of the rationality, and I think it has that feminine quality to it, but it also has the warrior aspect to it. So
Yeah, I do not
I
often
just feel
I do not often pray to Apollo, and I'm not sure why. What do you
hmm.
think of the Mithras cult?
What's up?
Mithras. What do you think of that cult?
Um, I don't know too much about it. Is it really? Are there a lot of people in that cult now? I mean, this.
No, 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 not at all. No,
Okay,
but
I have heard some people like sometimes I see accounts out there where they worship different gods, but I don't know. Um, what's your opinion on the Mithras cult?
Um, it's sort of a Roman cult that was like I don't know. Again, it's something that sort of resonates and fascinates me
Mhm.
superstitiously and recurs, and I think, well, there's something very interesting about that.
Mhm.
And
Mithras is the Egyptian god of.
no, it's like a Persian god that
Oh,
became
that's right.
popular in Rome. It competed with Christianity and was very similar in many ways, but it had a
Okay.
whole sort of Illuminati style initiation ceremony thing where you went into a grotto, and it was
Oh,
like, was it 11 stages? I think I forget how many stages of initiation, including being beaten and
okay.
taking hallucinogenics and all the usual. It was very culty,
Okay.
but the shrines to Mithras were found throughout the Roman Empire,
Mhm.
including in Britain. There's many in Britain,
Mhm.
and it was becoming very popular and competing with Christianity. And in fact, there's certain things about Christianity that were borrowed from the Mithras cult,
Mhm.
and it's all to do with Mithras slaying the bull. It's extremely pagan. They
Mhm.
worship an idol of this guy cutting the throat of a bull
Mhm.
while a scorpion bites its fucking balls,
Mhm. Bites the
and
bull's balls.
the zodiac is behind it.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
interesting.
it is interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated by it, but I'm not sure what to make of it.
I mean, it sounds pretty healthy and life affirming to me. I don't know enough about it to comment. I have read a little bit about it in the past, but um, it seems like though the reason why Christianity won is because it's simpler and it's easier. Like the this is why they're able to like take Christianity into Africa and like find some random savage somewhere living in the jungle and be like, hey, Jesus is God. You should worship this and go like this and go to church. And you don't really have to do much. You just go to church and then you like believe that God is the best or that Jesus is the savior. And as long as you do that, you get eternal life. So it's a really easy sell to people that aren't very intelligent. You could be like, hey, just do these very easy things and you'll get eternal life versus like complicated priests doing bull sacrifices with barley on the head on the bull. Like it's all too complex and esoteric for people to understand, whereas Christianity just makes it really simple. There's only one God. You don't have to worry about all pleasing all those other gods, and you just have to be a good person or be charitous, or give to charity.
Well, I believe they found a bit of a glitch in the European psyche or something with this equality stuff and the
Mhm.
whole kind of universalism and
Right.
everybody's the same as long as you are. The whole idea of compassion being the chief virtue
Right. Exactly. It's like you can
is
have compassion. You should have compassion, but you shouldn't be excessively compassionate. Sometimes people
yeah,
don't deserve compassion. They don't deserve
oh
compassion. They deserve violence, and
yeah,
you have to be able to know when to do which. And Christianity basically tells you never violence. It's always compassion. Versus the
yeah,
other side, it could be just only violence. And to me, that's the more barbaric side, where it's like you're basically an animal at that point. So you got to find
yeah.
this balance between compassion and violence, and
And
that.
it's extremely bad in the modern world where you see these trials, especially in America, these Protestant American Baptists and so forth, and they're
Mhm.
like rushing out to kiss the man who murdered their son or something.
Oh right,
And like,
yeah.
give
We'll
you, I love
forgive
you.
everybody, even if
It's
they
like
tortured
you
and raped your
fucking.
daughter and killed
This is
her. It's
not
like I
justice.
forgive you. It's like give me a
Oh
fucking break.
no,
I hate that
it
stuff
makes me
so
so
much.
sick. It's the worst fucking thing I've ever seen. It absolutely makes me
Yeah,
sick.
yeah. They just need to stop being so nice. That's basically like Trump said that a while back, and it's a really simple way to put it. Like white people just need to stop being so nice. Like if we
They
just do
do.
that, it's like we're letting people walk all over us, and it's like we used to rule the world because we knew we could, and we did, and we just stopped believing in ourselves. So just start believing in ourselves and realize we can just go out and conquer the whole world. All we have to do is decide to. We can kick the subversives. out.
Yeah. Okay. There's one thing. Yeah. Let's just say right now and for all time, because everyone knows it, right? Nobody can beat us, really.
Yeah. Right. As long as we believe in
You know,
ourselves.
not the Semites, and certainly not even the Chinese or whoever.
Right. They can't do it either. We already proved it
Not
in World
really.
War II. Like
Not really.
we
I mean,
handed it the best power.
you can subvert us and like twist our minds and
Right.
make our women rule over us for a bit. But you
But
will
it's
never be us, and you will never, you will always really before Deus, before reality and history. Nothing will change, even if we die out.
yeah.
You will never be us, and you will never be as good as we were.
Right.
Even if
Yeah.
it comes.
Yeah. Get close to it.
So a guy named Ken, let me read out a chat here. He says, so far, so-called Christo-paganism ends up being inevitably a lot more paganism than Christianity, he says. Just treating Jesus as another divine figure among many. Right. Well, that is an argument. I mean, this is what do you say? What would you say? I mean, that's true, I guess. You'd have to, if Christianity and paganism were to try to combine, it would just inevitably become paganism.
Right. Yeah. Because you would have to destroy all the Christian elements of it, which is all the neighbor love.
Okay, so like I admit that in what I'm trying to do, and yet I will take let's say, compassionate view towards Christianity, and be willing to accept those arguments, and even because of the fact that it's invariably, as I pointed out earlier, it's invariably part of our morality that's at odds with our pagan. Incredibly, we do need some element of that harshness. It's true, but
yeah,
I don't know. Some of it was a bit harsh. It just
yeah, it was. Yeah, they didn't always get it right either. It's like we don't have to be just total violent maniacs. It's like it's temperance. This is the most important thing that I try to get across. I know I might not be the most temperate sometimes in my tweets, but the idea is that you're always trying to get away from excessive behavior, and if you become too violent, then you're going to destroy everything what's creating the society. But if you become too compassionate, then you degenerate. So it's like you got to find the balance of those two. And to me, it's like it all comes down to governance. Is that you have to make sure that your government is set up well to where it ensures that the best people, the most virtuous, are writing the laws, and whatever it takes to get that and maintain that should be the goal, because everything flows out from that. It's like the reason why we're so degenerate in America is because we're a democracy. It needs to change form of government, in my view, to the temperate approach, which is aristocracy. It's a republic, and we vote, but it's weighted towards virtue. So you have the more virtuous the person, the more votes they will get, and you're only going to allow the people who have crossed all these hurdles to even get into the Congress. Like you have to, I don't know exactly what it'll be, but like pass a wisdom test. You have to have like a PhD in philosophy, or you have to have served in the military.
Athleticism, experience in war, probably, right?
Yep.
Some experience in war.
Yep. Yeah. All these things, like they should be prerequisites before you hold power. Because like right now in America, you can be anybody. You can be the stupidest guy on the street, and as long as you can get enough people to vote for you, you're gonna get to write the laws. And considering how the people by nature are mediocre, they don't know.
Not only that, the person most likely, because they're so mediocre, the person most likely to be elected in any of those things is the person most supported by money to appear on TV and somewhere people recognize, which means it's very, very tunneler oriented fucking system.
Yeah, it doesn't reward virtue. It just rewards money, basically. Like whoever's got the money.
Money is paramount in the American system. But hold on, that same guy made another comment. Let me read it out. The conversation or the deconversion he's talking about. This must have been earlier. We were talking about something. about the deconversion he's talking about is mostly because the churches are obviously corrupt.
Mm.
People have yet to shed slave morality. They drop Christianity in favor of an even more pure slave morality. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they love is the slave morality, because
Right.
most of them are born to be slaves. That's what we
Yeah.
said from the start, and it sounds so harsh, and we sound like we're the big mean guys, or
Yeah.
they love slavery, but it's like fucking hell.
Yeah. We
There's a
just want
reason for it.
justice. We want good order. You know, it's like we're tired of seeing all these like vicious people running around with freedom. Like we know who the people are that are causing the problems. Like we don't have to wait for them to murder somebody to put them in jail. Like just go out there. You know, it's like we'll obviously have to have some way to like evaluate different people, and I don't want people who are smart and capable and virtuous ending up as slaves, because that's not good. They should have that freedom to where they can express it. But I just want order. I just want to live in a country that actually functions, and there's not just chaos everywhere. It's exhausting.
Yeah, yeah. These hard truths were once accepted as, even in a Christian society,
Mhm.
they were once accepted. The hard truths of
Yeah.
maintaining order, and one of them is that you must punish crime severely
Hmm.
in an eye for an eye way, at
Right.
least. Yeah, in fact, like
Hmm.
I mean, so that means, in terms of crime, like the true crime thing has become very popular, and I must admit to following some of that myself, and the limits, the extremes of the activities of some of these criminals is, unbelievable, and the torture they will inflict on innocent people, children even,
Yep. Animals.
is
Yeah.
fucking sickening to an extreme that
Right.
I would just like to see them, instead of getting some shitty prison sentence, being tortured themselves in an
Yeah.
exact same way.
Yeah. For
And that
certain
would be just,
crimes, yeah, I can
yeah.
agree. Like
And
they
they're
need to take away.
screaming, let me, the very thing that women cannot cope with, that they're,
Yeah.
enough, like, let me go. No, it must be exactly the same as what you did to, especially some poor kid. I mean,
Yeah.
the vision of innocence, a child,
Yeah.
it's like, no,
Because
no.
you got to set an example for other people so that they know this is what's going to happen to you if you do this. Like that's why they
Yeah.
were crucifying people in Rome, because they wanted everybody to see it. Like, if
Yeah.
you are
You have to.
revolt
You
against
simply have to.
Rome,
And all that relates to the inability to accept what a normal type person is, or certainly a serf or a lower type person, in that their functionality does not allow for personal virtue or personal self betterment,
Mhm.
and only threat of physical violence.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's
Well,
the only thing they will
honestly,
listen to.
truly,
Yeah,
and I'm not even joking. I know I laughed there, but
yeah,
really, only observation of punishment will, and that's the reason throughout
yeah.
those dark decades of history that
Mhm.
children and so forth would congregate to see the hanging at the square or whatever.
Mhm.
There's a very good reason for it.
Yeah, yeah. It's part of justice.
It's
Like nowadays,
to
you would
know
never.
what not to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like it scares people, and it works. And it's the thing that I try to get towards also, though, is that uh, a lot of these crimes, I would say most of these crimes that are happening in at least in America, is they could have been prevented by just taking those people off the streets beforehand. Is that at a certain point in a person's life, the state needs to come in and evaluate them and be like, is this person fit for freedom? Um, I don't know what age, maybe it's 6 or 7, or maybe put them through high school and then evaluate them once they're an adult. But
Well,
like,
okay, the perfect ultimate evaluation would be an IQ test, really.
yeah,
I mean, first
IQ
off.
test. You can do that
But on
early.
top of that, I mean, it's not like, but a person with low intelligence can also still be virtuous. There's many
Right.
hardworking people of low intelligence. So on
Yeah.
top of that, there needs to be like a series of tests for like diligence and
Right. Diligence.
certain
Yeah.
certain qualities that would make them,
Yeah.
because in everyone's life, including at the topmost, there must be an element of usefulness, right?
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
Hellenistic. That's a hard truth of Hellenism or other
Right.
proper value systems.
Right. There's no superfluousness. Like if
Not
you're extra,
not just usefulness, but a continuation of improvement, self improvement,
right.
societal improvement.
Right.
And
There's
there's
no
nothing.
like staying still. It's like
Yeah,
everybody's supposed to be improving. Even if you're a pleb, like you need to be a better pleb, and learn how to hoe your field better. Um,
yeah.
and and understanding that your place in society is where you're supposed to be. There's a whole idea in Western nations that everybody can be like rich and famous, and you're all entitled to all these benefits that rich people have, and that if you're
Oh,
not rich and famous and beautiful, then you're somehow uh, you're not
well,
you don't
beauty.
have any.
We will never discount beauty. I mean, true beauty. I mean, these people you're talking about now are like these Instagram models with
Mm,
these giant shaking bums and stupid crap, right?
yeah.
Like it's not true beauty. It's not.
Right. Yeah, that's not true beauty. Yeah, because true beauty, I think, comes from the divine. Like you have to be blessed with a beautiful spirit first, because then when your spirit is beautiful, then it manifests through everything in your life. But if your spirit isn't beautiful, you can put on all the makeup and the hair and everything, and for guys like us, we can see right through that. We see those Instagram girls tossing their
That
hair around.
yeah, that manifests in good taste.
Right.
Good taste.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't have any taste. They're sitting there dancing in front of their uh, phone like a prosty. And it's like,
Like a goat.
yeah, they're just like a stripper. It's like they don't understand the value of modesty, and because like to me, modesty is beautiful. Like when I see a woman that's
Well,
like
okay,
out in public,
okay, but yeah, modesty. But as Hellenists, we're not against nudism either, right? Right. We're
right?
not. But
Not,
yeah,
yeah, it's just at the right places in the right times. It's like generally
yeah.
speaking, like when your wife goes out in public, you want her covered up. You don't want to show her off like she's open for business. It's like that's your wife, like so
Well,
she
I don't think
covers
there's
up.
anything wrong in
Basically,
showing off your wife a bit in a status kind of way. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In a kind of like, look how beautiful my wife is.
yes, and
I
I
don't
think
think.
that's possible to do. For one, I don't think they should cover their face. That's one thing is
No,
that in
no,
Islam,
no,
yeah,
no. There's no need to go in a face veil. Yeah,
yeah.
no, for one.
Yeah, but like the whole thing though, like the Greeks, the women, they when they were out in public,
Yeah.
they dressed modestly. Like they wore the thing over the
Well,
head.
I mean, they wear a toga like you're wearing, as in their breasts wouldn't be hanging out. But
Right, yeah, or they
I
they
mean,
would wear like a chiton or something, and they would show off their shoulders, right? So it's like they
mm,
would show off part of their beauty, and they might
yeah.
even show a little bit of their chest, right? Like if it's coming down a little bit. But the thing is, like below that, that's off limits. If you're not her husband, like it's draped, so you can't see the outlines of the
Right.
breasts or even the hips, really.
But like,
Like
I mean, obviously the attitude to nudity was completely different. There's nude statues everywhere, and like
right.
it's like it's not the same at the same time. They're like, yeah, there was a modesty aspect to it, but at the same time, there was
Respect
a
for
beauty in nudity that was to be expected, sort of as well. Where
Mhm.
where it was like you were to be perfectly aristocratic and even virtuous, you were either completely nude or you were dressed in the most incredible finery of elaborate
Yeah,
drapes and things.
right.
One
Yeah,
or
so
the other.
yeah, it's like
But it's not like
the
some. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, like the nude like the heroic or the nude hero like with just a spear and a shield and he's completely naked. They obviously weren't fighting battles like that. So there's like a respect for
They
the
were.
beauty of
They were.
nudity.
They,
But like,
no, they were. They were. They would fight naked. The
did
Greeks.
they?
Yes.
This must have been earlier, right? Like
Yes, and that
pre.
was like Socrates spoke of that. I remember that. I remember when I read that. That was the ultimate ideal of the ultimate warrior was to go into battle naked because he was absolutely exposed before God in every possible sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it was in Plato. They do speak of going into
Okay.
battle naked. The Helots, yeah,
I
or
did.
sorry,
Oh,
not
the hell
Helots.
would do that.
No, the fucking Helots was the fucking Spartan thing. What's the
Right.
hoplites? Hoplites.
Hoplites. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ultimate hoplite
Okay.
would go into battle naked with just a helmet and a spear,
Huh. What
just to
what year was this?
I don't know, but I mean, I remember Socrates spoke of it as like I remember in
Yeah,
Plato he spoke of it as an ideal
yeah. I could
to
see
go
that,
back.
especially if both sides were fighting without armor. Then it's like mano y mano. Um,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, in the
I,
modern sense with guns, it's like different, but to be the Greek thing is to be sort of unabashedly, you know, expose yourself in
right,
a kind of not in a Christian sense, but like in a heroic nudity was a concept, right?
right, yeah,
And so all the statues were nudes,
hmm
and they weren't just like. This is the other thing. I wrote about this in my art book, my original art book. I
hmm
went to a great expense to write about this. It's like the nudes, the Greek nudes statuary. It doesn't just like sort of, if in a modern statue, a perfect nude would be like you'd have a huge penis and the women would have giant breasts and everything else, right?
right, yeah,
Right?
modern,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Yeah, a modern one, right? So they made it as beautiful as a naked body can be
right,
without being sexual.
right,
To I believe to exemplify the divinity of beauty. And that's no easy task. It's so hard to do. In fact, if anybody knows anything about sculpture,
yeah,
which so few people do,
mm,
um, it's an incredibly difficult task.
yeah,
And um, to even try to do that, insist that all the statues are nude,
hmm
but also they're not overtly sexual,
right,
and then show a kind of divinity through their a beauty, yet they're beautiful, utterly beautiful. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's a
as
whole
beautiful as
fucking
possible. Like,
yeah.
they're
It's
big. The
very
muscles aren't too big. They're not too small. Like they're perfectly proportioned. The way like their stances,
yeah.
everything about
And
them is
there was an idealism to the nose. The nose must be kind of what they call a Roman nose today. The nose came out sort of in a kind of
right when you
flat
don't have
line
that
kind
little
of, you know what I mean?
tip there. Yeah,
Apparently, when they first excavated Pompeii, back in the what it was 19th century, I think. I'm not sure. Europeans excavated Pompeii. They were horrified to discover that the people of that time did not have Roman noses, as they called them.
yeah,
They were like, "What? Where's the fucking flat nose that comes out from the statues?"
yeah.
They don't understand that, but that is idealism.
Mhm.
And there's a book. Only the most fucking autistic artist type person would know this. And I
Mhm.
wrote about this in my book, of course.
Mhm.
But what is it? What I can't remember the guy's name. Shit, I forget his name. It begins with a C. But there's a Greek artist writer at the time who discusses the reason for the Greek statues and the proportions and the
Okay.
everything they did, and it's all related to which turns out to be the formula for eternity, the golden mean, which
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
uh, goes forward to be in fractals as the ever increasing spiral of eternity,
Right.
which is that the Greeks took when the Greeks made a statue, the and every little part of it was in proportion to the whole mathematically,
Mhm.
so that when your finger was extended this way and you're in your pose, your finger was considered mathematically, according to the mean,
Mhm.
in proportionate to your whole entire arm, then your body, and the entire sculpture as a whole.
Hmm.
Before they even started sculpting, this is the mathematical process they went through before they
Mhm.
even tried to chisel the marble.
Yeah.
And this was the advancement of their art,
Mhm.
which people marvel over to this day.
Right. Yes, it's this purpose. The principle of the golden mean is like the foundation of Hellenism. I think it's like
Yeah,
it,
and the
it's
golden mean is eternity,
yeah.
and the lesson is eternity.
That's what it translates to.
Well, the golden mean, yeah,
Mhm.
in terms of what people learned since mathematically, there's a guy, Mandelbrot, I think his name is, discovered fractals. You know about fractals?
Yeah. Yeah. I know that there are.
He's a great mathematician. Apparently, I think he might be.
He's Greek.
No, 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 no. He was Polish or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. He might even be Jewish. I'm not sure, but uh,
Yeah. Right.
but regardless, He was a
Yeah.
guy for whom mathematics, he had a kind of synesthesia with
Mhm.
mathematics, where that he would see math problems and he would hear music, I think, or was it colors or something, and he
Mhm.
would be able to put them together abstractly. Like, this is the crazy way life works if you really look at it, right? And
Mhm.
so, because he could abstractly, artistically put together these problems, he could solve all these things. He came up with these things called fractals,
Mhm.
which proves a kind of eternal, and it's based off the golden mean, and it works in the same kind of way in a spiral. If
Mhm.
you, in terms of math, which is pi as well, is it related to this? Pi, it's what is it, 1.3, whatever the fuck it is,
3.14.
or yeah, whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was never a math guy.
Yeah.
But anyways, but every Greek sculpture is considered proportionally in relation to this, and works out perfectly,
Mhm.
so that the finger is related to the hand, to the arm, and the body. And the entire thing about fractals is that everything is related, and that,
Mhm.
and in the golden mean is that, as we might say about our lives compared to the universe,
Mhm.
we are a microcosm of the whole and related to the whole,
Mhm.
and a continuation of it.
Right.
And that's in Greek sculpture. It's
Yeah.
considered in that sculpture in a way that's never been considered since.
Mhm.
Math is in that sculpture, big time.
Yeah.
And every Greek sculpture is considered mathematically in
Mhm.
in relation to that.
Yeah. I need
And
to. I need to
that's
read
why
this.
it is so inspirational
Yeah.
to this
Who's
day
the?
and
Which
forever.
writer are you citing here?
Huh? Oh,
Which writer or writers?
it begins with a C. I have a video on it. If you look back in my video history at the very, very start, there's a video about it. Begins
Okay.
with a C. I can't think of it now. I'm a bit drunk from the symposium wine,
From the wine. Yeah.
and I can't think of it. I can't think of it at the moment. But
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I'll
he's
check it
not
out.
well
I'm
known. He's not
curious
well
about
known. But
this.
he wrote he's the only recorded thing about doing a sculpture, related to this issue.
To the golden mean. Yeah. And he came after Aristotle.
Oh, no. He's like back in the he was a I think he's post. Who's the greatest Greek sculptor was? Oh shit, what's his name? He's got an X in his name.
Praxiteles or
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, right.
Praxiteles. I can't
I
remember
believe
his
he's a
name.
little bit post. He's a little bit post that guy, but he's still in like the age of maybe Pericles. I'm not sure.
Okay. So classical
Yeah,
Athens.
he's totally
So
totally a
forth.
classical guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So
But
yeah,
there's only like fragments of what he wrote is left, but still, in
okay.
relation to art, he outlined in terms of sculpture the the hard process that they went through.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and
you
it
know,
shows.
to me, I
It's like
was like, okay, so they've got a system,
yeah,
a mathematical system in relation to this, and everybody wonders why Greek sculpture is so eternally inspirational, and
right. And it's just
it,
nobody
you know,
seems to match it. Like even during the Renaissance, like they have this like slightly the sculptures just have a slightly
some of them
flat
did master it. I do think fucking Donatello or some of those guys,
Michelangelo. Yeah, I mean
you know,
they're
they
great,
they, they did, and
but
I,
it's
I
like
honestly think they don't not only master it but surpass it.
you think
I
so?
would say that I think they did. I think they took the proper principles and applied them, and they even added a bit of more romance to them in certain ways. No, I would never say surpass. We can't say surpass in the same way that I can't say Plotinus is better than Plato.
Right? Yeah,
I can
yeah.
never say they surpass. No,
The
because the
original.
the
Yeah,
original genius is so tremendous. This
yeah.
is why, again, everything we've talked about here, we must keep in mind. Anybody who fucking badmouths any of these people, they better have a fucking. It's not like you just can't do that.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
talking,
I know.
we're talking about
Yeah,
geniuses on a par that we're not
yeah.
worthy. You know.
It's really upsetting a lot of times when you hear people talking bad about like the greatest geniuses of all time. And it's not upsetting that they don't agree with it or understand it. It's just like I just wish that there was more wisdom in society. I wish there were wiser people. Like I wish more people would read the Greeks. At least like the smart people, because even smart people aren't reading the Greeks now. Like they're like working at tech companies and scientists and stuff, and it's like, they might have great careers, but they never truly get it. Like you have to read the Greeks, and I don't even know ancient Greek yet, but I'm about to learn it. And from what I've
Are you?
talked to other people who do read
Who's
it,
teaching you, or how are you going to learn it?
well, I've got a buddy that's gonna help me out with it a little bit. But when I'm starting out, I got a book called Athenes or something like that. I'm gonna start with that, and then I'm also gonna try to find like some app or something. I heard that Duolingo is doing ancient Greek in beta testing, so I might be able to try that out. But either way, I think it's from what I've heard from people who do know ancient Greek and they've read the texts in the actual Greek, is that it's not the same. Like when you read translations, you're getting all kinds of negative judgments that were made by the translators, and I
Yeah,
can see
yeah,
it
yeah.
sometimes when I
I
dig
know
in
that. I
deeper.
know that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
like,
true. Yeah.
and you look into it, and they're even like respected ones like Fagles. Um, his translation of Hesiod. I went and looked at this specific one because it's Hesiod says, and Aristotle quotes this too. He says, uh, first, the Aristotle translation that I have says, first house and wife and an ox for the plow. So basically, like Hesiod saying, if you're a man and you're starting off your life, you need to first get yourself a house, a wife, and an ox, and that's going to be your starting thing. But the Hesiod, um, the translation from Fagles, it says you get a house, a slave girl, and an ox for the slave girl to follow behind. And that whole sentence right there is not in the Greek at all. It's like uh, I can't remember exactly what the word was, but when I looked into detail, it means wife. It doesn't mean slave girl. But for whatever
Right.
reason, Fagles decided to translate and add
Right.
this whole thing about the slave girl following behind the ox. So it's
Right.
like you gotta learn the ancient Greek and actually read it in the ancient Greek. And what people have told me is your brain starts thinking in Greek, and when that happens, that's when you ascend up into the
Oh, for
the
fucking
realm of the
sure.
forms.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
so
I
I'm
absolutely.
looking forward to it.
100% agree with that.
Yeah. Do
That's
you
like
read Greek or Latin? Or?
no, no. I wish I had time to learn such things, but
Yeah.
I've actually never been good with languages generally.
Mhm.
Only the language I'm born with. I was never good with learning other languages. Maybe I
Yeah.
would have. I would otherwise. But
You
like,
might be
about
if you for ancient Greek though. You might be more excited to do it with all your classical education. I'm sure you would want to read it
oh,
too.
I would, but Jesus Christ, I've got so many things on the go.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
I don't know how I'd cope with that.
Yeah,
Or
yeah. I'm trying to find
explain it
time
to life.
myself.
I want to learn ancient Greek instead of doing this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe just I'm gonna just try to add it in a little bit, a little half hour here, like before bed. I'll try to read a little bit. Just
I
any
would. I
progress is
would.
something.
I would love to, and especially ever since I read a lot of my thing is inspired by there was old bookstores around in Vancouver
Mhm.
when I was young, and I would go there and I would buy these books, and they would mention and quote famous people that you know from history and they would start speaking in ancient Greek or ancient Latin. And I was like, wow, this is very important to them. They learned this and they knew it.
Mhm.
And the great, if they ever wanted to quote something of wisdom that meant something, it wasn't something biblical, it was something Greek or Latin
Right.
that had meaning that you could not argue against. And I was
Mhm.
like, wow. I mean, that was my whole journey into this, probably was buying certain, I think, 19th century books in used bookstores or something, and
Mhm.
seeing those type of things.
Yeah.
But oh shit! I totally lost what I was going to say to you. I was going to ask you something. Oh, it's vanished from my mind. We should wrap it up soon. Anyways, I've been kept you for a
Yeah.
long time. Sorry, I've kept you for ages.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Sorry about that.
oh yeah, we've been on 2.5 hours. That's cool. It's been a good talk. I'm glad that we did this. We should do it again because I'm
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
trying to get out there now. I was uh, hidden for a while, and now I'm fully face doxed. So I'm ready to talk politics and religion, philosophy, all this stuff. I like the symposium idea. I was thinking about even starting a podcast where it's just like a symposium, and we get 4 or 5
But you
people.
have to drink wine. You must drink wine.
Yep, we drink wine, and we got flute girls, and we're reclining back and eating
Oh, blue
grapes and
girls.
stuff, and we got the garlands and everything. I think it'd
Yeah,
be great, and do it in person too. Come out here to my place. I'm gonna set up the couches and everything, and we're
I
gonna have
love
a
to.
little
I love to. I
symposium.
love to.
Blue
Yeah.
girls, yeah, definitely. I need
I
to
always like the
a few
desert.
months.
I'm always fascinated by the desert above all other types of environments, and I so rarely have got to visit it. Something
Wait,
about the desert is like fascinating to me, and
yeah,
in a
it
natural
is.
way,
Once you
like
come out here
so
too, you
bizarre.
feel it. There's like
Yeah,
a
and apparently all the at night is when it comes alive and like
yeah,
becomes deadly.
yeah, yeah. You
It's
gotta
like
watch
deadly
because there's
delight.
snakes and scorpions, all kinds of crazy stuff out
Yeah,
here.
it's such
Yeah,
a cool. It's cool. Yeah, it's
yeah.
cool.
I like it. I like it. I think there's something about it out here. It's it's hard to put words to it, but if you're like a Jim Morrison fan, a lot of Jim Morrison stuff because he came out here to the desert and he would like eat peyote and like trip out dancing with Indians and stuff, and um, he really captures the feeling of the desert. And I'm hoping to bring that because like it's at night, the stars come out, it's really dry, and so you get a beautiful view, and especially in the springtime and the fall, it's really nice. You get really great weather. In the summer it's really hot, and in the winter it's not too bad, but it's cool. Yeah, if you ever come over to this side of the pond, you're more than welcome to join us for a symposium or religious festivals, or even just come to the temples if you want.
Okay,
We're
well,
gonna open them up to the
if I
public.
join you for a symposium, we must sit on the couches properly and like upright
Yes,
on the couch,
yes, the proper
and
recline. We gotta.
it must be perfect. It has to be
Yeah,
perfect. I expect orderly system.
exactly. That's the key. It's the orderly drinking party.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Okay. Well, excellent. Let's
Cool.
call it
Well,
a
yeah,
day,
good
I guess.
talk. Yeah, definitely. We
Yeah.
should do this again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's Hellenism surmised by the Hellenist.
Yes.
And there we go. There we go.
Yeah.
So,
Well, cool. Well, thanks,
that's it.
guys.
Yeah.
Everybody who's watching, thanks for watching.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Great.
And remember your virtue, your proper
Yes,
virtue.
virtue
We told
first.
you what it was. We told
Yeah.
you. You can't say we didn't.
Yep.